Welcome to Journey Through the Gate, your paranormal portal podcast, as we delve into the many questions and wonders brought on by the supernatural experience. What's on the other side of the gate? Let's find out together. Entrance. How y'all doing? Hey, Donny. Welcome in. Hello. Vixen, Doe, Maraid. How you doing, darling? Glenn, are you kidding me? Sean, we got Sean in here chasing the truth. If you're not over there on Chasing the Truth, get over there and subscribe right now. He does great shows on the weekend. What is Sean's schedule now? Donny, do you have offhand? Terrific show, is it not?
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm not quite sure. Hey, it's Stephen Lewis.
Hey. And
I think Sean's just doing a Wednesday and Saturday now.
Yeah.
Anyone
Sean,
here,
correct us if we're wrong.
Anyone here who is not familiar with Sean G's show? It is one of my favorite shows besides this show.
It's great.
And
we love Sean.
Yeah.
Great stories, great experiences, a lot of integrity, a lot of knowledge. He's not boastful about it. He's just matter of fact. Mm-hmm. And he's just got that southern charm and that he's got a lot of intelligence, like kind of under the current there in the river. It's like he's quiet and, he's listening, and then you know what I mean? You think he's doing something else, but he's taking everything in, and the knowledge that he has, and like I said, the experience too, and he doesn't jump to conclusions, and he's not going to put up with shenanigans or BS, like most of us, but he'll give a person a chance to tell the story as well too. So it's a great show. Chris Jarvis, welcome in. Say hello to everybody in here, Donny, that you see that I've missed. I'm trying to catch up.
Hello to Sue Ashwell.
Are you kidding me?
Hello to Vixen Doe.
And
Chris Jarvis, hello. And I want to give a special welcome to my friend Chisholm, if you'll see him in the chat.
Welcome.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of meeting him.
Here we go.
Yesterday and the day before, we got to hang out, and it was a good time.
Testing. 5x5, Chisholm, 5x5. Welcome in. This is the best chat. I'm telling you right now, you're going to love it in here. We have some wonderful people. They ask great questions. While we were talking in chat, how I go back and try to look at the live chat if I have time, Donnie. Well, not if I have time, but it's just, you get in there, and sometimes it's working, sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it takes YouTube like a couple of days to let you see the live chat after you've done a live. So it takes a little bit. You have to hit it at the right time. And I was noticing in there, we were doing Amityville, and we said we were going to do Amityville tonight, but being the fact that it's 4th of July and weekend here in the United States, and they also had Canada Day. Hello, Leslie, and all our wonderful Canadian listeners. That was yesterday, I believe. And
hello to Worldwide Ghosts.
Absolutely. Hey, Worldwide, welcome in. So we figured we would do a little bit of Gettysburg. Donny had a great experience this weekend with some great people, and you can get in there. We're going to talk a little bit about that. You want to give a brief overview of that, Donny? Tell them a little bit about where you went. Maybe not who you were with, because we don't have everybody's permission to tell their experience. Their experiences. Okay, well.
Yeah, I made sure to ask. So
I want to be sure, because I don't want to be telling anybody's stories on here. Welcome in, people. Welcome in. So go ahead, hit them with an overview there, Donny. I'm going to get the sage going. We're going to need it tonight.
Chisholm and I, along with Laura and along with Tony Merkel from the Confessionals podcast. It's one of the biggest ones. It's the podcast that got me into paranormal in the first place, the Confessionals.
July 1st, yep.
And him and his brother Jack, and we went with another tour group, and we went to the Catskills in New York. Wow. And we visited the Shantley Hotel. This was the third haunted hotel that I visited, along with the Hoover House that we talked about earlier, and Burnbrae Manor that was also in New York. But
what was the third one?
It's called the Burnbrae Manor, which is on the border between. It's near the border between New York and Pennsylvania, towards where the Poconos are.
Okay.
And so we went to the Shantley Hotel this time, and
there we go. Here's a little of that. So that's Donnie's overview of that. He went this weekend. We have some terrific slides and a couple pics that he has provided us with. Thank you for that. And we have a little video and everything else. So how's everybody out there doing? Hi, Sue. Welcome. And we're gonna. Oh, here comes the bacon. So, do you want to explain, Donnie, the bacon to? We have so many new listeners tonight. First of all, if you wouldn't mind, thank you so much to do so. Go outside, pop out of the chat, go in there and hit that like, because YouTube hates us. We usually go orange almost immediately on here, even if we're talking about kittens and whatever. Even if the kittens are named JFK or RFK or Oswald. We had a kitten named Oswald once. It got us orange like that. But if you pick up my drift, so. So anyway, the likes help, the comments help. We appreciate everybody in here. We love. And thank you for subbing, Worldwide. Yes, I remember when you did. Thank you. So that's terrific. Absolutely, subbing helps. Sharing helps. All of these things. Now, I realize that not everybody can share stuff like this on their social media because, people still have a stigma about paranormal. Can you imagine after all this time? But I've been made aware of it since we've been digging in the 60s and 70s so much, Donnie, that, the stigma, I lived it, so I can tell you. And thank you kindly. So, and I can't believe that people, but, you have to do what you got to do with families and friends, try not to rock the boat, whatever, everybody does their thing. I just tend to not, dig around it. I mean, at this time, I'm so tired of, I'm not going to pretend I'm something I'm not, I mean, that'd be lying. To me, that's lying. You got to be true to yourself, right? You don't have to put it in people's face, but you don't have to hide what you are either. That's the thing. People get to be, as long as they're not hurting anybody, and you're not hurting anybody, just, that's crazy. People, you have some issues in the house. This is why people don't say anything. This is why people don't talk about the ghost stories to friends and family. I remember when I first wrote the book, I gave it to my sister, who happens to be in the book, even though I didn't use any names, because I got lucky there. Since I had so many sisters, I could just say my sisters, said or did. And then if one of them came at me and was mad that I did the story or whatever, I could just say, how do you know I was talking about you? My brother I had to go to and go, look, you're in the book, and it's going down, and it's nothing bad, and it's just what happened, and and I kept it as private, their stuff as private as I could. But that's just the point. They had no, most of them in the book, I tell it how people treated being in a haunted house. How you had all these people living in the haunted house and everybody else was dealing with it differently, and it was all hush hush. Even the people living together going through the experience weren't talking about it together, let alone with strangers. Yeah, Donnie, no joke, right?
Yeah, people tend to do that, especially those who are like too afraid to think about it.
Yep. That's it, Worldwide. A lot of times, though, listen, in the 70s and the 60s, it just wasn't like that. I think that's why there were so many good documentaries then, because we were just coming into, like Ripley's Believe It or Not was really getting a lot of, press. They had the book, the magazine. Steve would be better to just spill out what they had on that. But you were getting that. You had Fate magazine. You had, I can't even remember what was out at the time that had any good information other than Fate magazine. That was pretty much it. Can you remember anything? Chat, do you remember like back in the 70s or late 60s? I mean, that was pretty much it. That and Ripley's Believe It or Not, with the fake mermaids and the guy with the extra long fingernails and the man that was 12 feet tall or whatever. But in there, yeah. Right. You couldn't even go to the office and around the water cooler and go, hey, guess what? My kids levitated around in the living room last night. It was crazy as all get out. Just imagine. Right, Aunt Edna. Nothing. There was nothing. So I think it's really cool to pull up all these 70s things. I've been looking into a lot of the Amityville. We talked about it last weekend. I just wanted to mention it here and how cool this chat is. This is 73, Corey, okay, I got a good 10 years on you, but even then as a kid you can remember probably just things coming out like Unsolved Mysteries wasn't out yet. In Search Of was Outer Limits, One Step Beyond was like the precursor to Twilight Zone. That was really, this is based on a true story and facts, this happened, that kind of thing. But that actually came out before Twilight Zone. It was pretty cool. And different ones like that. There was a lot of mystery radio shows that had a lot of the mystery stuff in it, and like early superheroes, and some of those superheroes had a little bit of supernatural kind of flavor going on, didn't they? Like the Shadow Nose, and they weren't outright like ghosts, or I don't think so. Was there any? I know Spectre was my favorite comic book. That's the one that Rob Guttrow and I behind the scenes were like big Spectre fans. That's our comic book hero. But before that, I don't know how. What was there anything, chat, that was out there? I mean, even like comic book strips and stuff. We have come a long way, baby. Ann Palmer, we certainly have. But have we though? Are we flooded with so much information that now we just don't know what's what? Steve and I have talked about that multiple times. There's so many pictures, there's so many vids, there's so many stories, so much information. Do you guys find out that kind of mucks it up a little bit, makes it even harder? Goosebumps was for kids, but you know what? Goosebumps was great. I have a great Goosebumps story. You want to hear it? As cute as I'll get out. Well, I'm going to tell it anyway. So, I was a huge Stephen King fan. I don't want to talk about it right now. So, I was a huge, let's just say it that way. I was a huge, and I'm still a huge Stephen King, the author, fan. Although I've slowed down quite a bit. I tapped those brakes a while back, but I look back and there were some of the greatest scary memories I've ever had. Home reading The Stand. I was homesick with the flu, for Pete's sake, from high school. I was a sophomore in high school, I think. I may have been a freshman. And I was homesick, and I started reading that book, and that was my stay at home and read book. And I got the flu. It was great. I was scared absolutely out of my mind because everybody dies with the flu, and but the story had so much more. It was like The Stand, good against evil. It was about spiritual warfare and crazy crap and all kinds of things, right? Government, just all kind of nuts, bioweapon stuff. But the people in it was so cool how the people kind of like broke off and went to their side, either good or evil, without even really realizing it. They were just naturally drawn in those directions, and then wound up in the definitely on one side or the other, and then they had to stand against each other. So that was pretty cool. But anyway, I was a huge Stephen King fan, always was. And I can remember I was working like the bakery and Dunkin' Donuts and, crazy, 13 to 16-year-old jobs, right? And I'm saving up extra money after my bills to buy books. And back then they were $2.50, maybe $3 tops for the paperback. No joke, right? You might get lucky getting one under $2. But, so anyway, I had all the Stephen King books. And sometimes I got hardcover copies, and I'd have when they came out on cassette tape, I'd have copies of that, the whole audiobook. I mean, those things weren't cheap. And my sons grew up around this, right? And I would always tell them stories about all the little short stories. And of course, they loved, what's that movie? Stand By Me. That was actually a short story in one of his novels that had 4 parts. It had 4 novellas in it. And the original was called The Body. Excellent story. Excellent. Probably the best Stephen King from book to film ever. And second is probably Shawshank Redemption, and no kidding, Green Mile's probably third. That's for me. Love Pet Sematary. Loved a lot of them, you know, but books
The
are always
original
better.
It was up there for me, and The
Always
Shining.
better. The original is definitely better. I like the original Shining, although, you know, some of these people that they pick for, you know, they, like Margot Kidder in the Amityville, the whole time I'm just watching her form the M's, and I couldn't get past it, because it's just that they do the lip on the teeth thing. Anyway, crazy. I digress. So I'm a huge Stephen King fan. So my boys grow up around it, and my son, my oldest, was a huge reader, big time. He used to get in trouble at school for reading books, and he would be up a tree reading a book, riding his bike reading a book. I kid you not. He once got in trouble by his teacher for reading for the 3rd time Killer Angels by Michael Shera, A Little Story for Tonight, which is about the Gettysburg battle. And it was turned into Gettysburg, basically, by the way. That was what the movie was based on, Killer Angels. This book. And he's in the 3rd grade. And it's the 3rd time he read it, and the teacher had the nerve. Well, she never did that again. Anyway, he's he's in like kindergarten, 1st grade, and he's reading Goosebumps. Loving Goosebumps. Just devouring them. And he's paying for them, you know, doing his chores and yard work and things like that. Neighbors. They always did stuff like that, earn money. And all this Tooth Fairy money, birthday, all that stuff. So we go to Barnes & Noble, which is the big bookstore where we were at the time. He couldn't even reach up above to put the money on the counter without really stretching. That's how little he was. And he went and picked out all these Goosebumps. And I'm telling you what, in one haul, he got a stack like you would not believe, right? And just thrilled. Taking his time, picking them slow. You know, it was amazing. I love that. We go and he puts it up, and some of his money has got sparkles on it because some of it was Tooth Fairy money, and I used to pick a Tooth Fairy color and glitter them up and slide them underneath the pillow and stuff, and they always used to talk about, what color Tooth Fairy did you get? You know, I got an orange one, I got a green one last time, but anyway, the money had all this glitter stuck to it. And the guy asked me, goes, oh, you've been saving a while, huh? And he says, somebody likes to get scared. And was pointing at the Goosebumps. And my son looks up and he goes, yep, I'm working my way up to Stephen King. And he did just like that. I'll never forget it. So when he got old enough to read Stephen King, man, it was so cool to go back and forth and back. Because, you know, the dude can write. And he gets in depth the characters and things like that. Have you read any Stephen King?
Oh, let's see. I read Cujo, Pet Cemetery.
Great book, by the way. Oh my gosh, Cujo was fantastic. The
Cujo
book
was a
and
good
the
one.
movie.
What else did I read? I read a few of them. I think I read Misery.
Right here.
I
Not
never
bad.
got around to reading It or The Shining or The Stand, which I should
Okay.
eventually read.
Shining, I think, was the first book I read. Then I went back into Carrie, but I read the book after the movie. And the movie was like this with Vinnie Barbarino at the time. That's how we knew.
Yeah.
What's his name? What do you guys read? Did you get anybody here that's read King? What was your favorite King book? Christine. I like the movie better than the book on that one. But I guess that's because of the visual of the bumpers coming back to life and it coming back.
Ooh,
Maybe the shape-shifting car.
oh, yeah, I read Carrie. I remember that, too.
Did ya?
That was a good one.
That was, you know what that was basically about? Truly honest to God. It was about suppressing psychic abilities. It truly, I mean, that's basically it. That was the whole deal. The mom was saying it was evil and bad and... she was holding hers back. Carrie was holding hers back and scared to use. It's crazy. But that's, stuff like that can happen, believe it or not. Are you kidding me? He said, love Stephen King, my favorite. Salem's Lot. Oh, I forgot about Salem's
Oh, I
Lot.
forgot about that one, too.
You know, I gotta say that one was probably one where I liked the movie or the miniseries or whatever it was called better than the book, because I think the book dragged a little. Did you guys feel that? It was kind of dragging. I don't know whether it was because the back and forth of the antique guy, but he basically brought that antique. I digress. They always have a valet or a butler to help the caretaker, whatever you want to call that person. And that reminded me a lot of In Needful Things. Now, that was a good book. And Needful Things reminded me a lot of, what movie am I thinking of, guys? And I'll tell you, later on, I found out like 20-something years later in an interview, like a back alley interview from Stephen King somewhere on some obscure channel, that I was right. But it reminded me, when I read Needful Things, it reminded me of a great movie that I saw when I was young. And it was called Something Wicked This Way Comes.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, I remember that one.
Great flick.
Yeah.
And Stephen King really, really dug that story. And that's where he got Needful Things from. Yeah. How about that? Yeah, it was good. I liked it a lot. I think the girl with the arthritis and the spider thing in the necklace really kind of screwed with my head a little bit, but there's that. So anyway, you want to get some business out of the way? We were talking about all kind of anything else on Stephen King you got there, Donny? His writing anyway, his books.
Yeah. It's just he's amazing. Just
yeah, he was a good writer.
How prolific he is. And...
Yeah. I mean, I found that it would just grip you. If I don't care about the characters, yeah, Ray Bradbury. Thank you so much, Glenn. Yup, Ray Bradbury, and that was absolutely. Oh gosh, what's some stuff that Ray Bradbury has done? I'll tell you what, it's great. If you guys don't know, just look it up, Google it, dig into a couple of things. It's really good stuff.
I knew this too.
Yep. Cujo's, yeah. I mean, I thought they did a good job with Cujo, the book and the movie both. I had forgotten about that one, but I did find that his character portrayals in certain books, like in Stand By Me, and the different reasons people do things and why they develop, even like, River Phoenix's character in the movie, of how he got blamed for stealing the milk money in school, and the teacher, everybody blamed him, and the teacher knew, and it was the teacher who did it, and they blamed him automatically because of his reputation of his family. And he just decided to go bad because he was going to get blamed anyway. And I just, different things like that, the character development, why people become what they become, and, what are those moments in life that cause that ricochet off into one direction or the other. Very interesting stuff, I find. You?
Yeah.
How about makes you want to look at some T-shirts, doesn't it, Donny Joe?
Yeah. Yeah,
like, or some mugs, or maybe a mug. Wouldn't you guys just love to see some T-shirts or some mugs right now? I don't know what it is.
Oh yeah, do you want me to put up that link that you sent me?
Yeah, sure. Throw that up. And also, look, this helps the show so much. And we get a little piece of it, and it goes right into StreamYard or right into the internet with the portion I use here for the show. That way we can keep it going. I figure it's from you, for you, by you, and it's fantastic. So that's another way you can help out, or like I said, like, share, subscribe, whatever. And tpublic.com/Cisco will bring you right here, Donny. Here we go. You can go ahead and throw it up, sweetie. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just did.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you, Aunt Edna. Thank you, Sasha Bell. I like this one. This is very Victorian. The first one, it's very sepia. Everything is creams and browns and sepias. And this one, I just love some of the episode art. I'm kind of biased attached to it. But this is the new Gatekeeper cupcake t-shirt. I know a gatekeeper that got a cupcake last night. A good kind of cupcake, though. A birthday cupcake. We'll talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
Uncommon Belief's birthday is tomorrow. Well, actually, today. We celebrated last night and tonight. So this is the new Zombie Steve and Skeleton Cisco. I love this. I love the way this turned out. It's got Crispy on there. Look at that. And I don't know why you get an extra dot, but you know what? Take it. Get the extra dot, do something with it. Hello, Be Kind, welcome in. Lindsay, you know I love you, darling. Paradox, welcome, welcome. Sasha Bell, thank you, darling. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're so sweet. I appreciate you so much, Sasha Bell. My mods, I'll tell you what. So here it is, where the gatekeepers bake them fast and furious. They will bake you some shut the fuck up cakes really quick. And you also have my PayPal, and I appreciate that very, very much. Those of you who have donated, I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Who needs a t-shirt? Yeah, you know what? I need one too. I have a...
I need to get one as well.
I love this kitty. I love the little duck. I love the little duck. But thank you for looking at that. Thank you for those of you who have looked at it. And just like I said, you'll grab some stickers if you've got to do one great big one. I don't know if the sale is on right now. Maybe one of my mods can check that out. But it usually, when it goes on, it lasts about a week, and then it comes back. And Lindsay, see, she loves her Gatekeeper t-shirt. Look, 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 look. And listen, she went the extra mile, because I'm telling you what, in Canada, it probably cost her $150 to get it shipped to her. So, just saying, the dedication, bar none. This is what I mean. My gatekeepers. Oh, great, great, great. And yes, and Jose was probably one of the first people to ever get it years ago when I was just doing my regular podcast. So that's, and it's stuck on his guitar. I do remember that. Yes, Jose, that's fantastic. Absolutely. Ian, welcome. And here's some more bacon for everybody. And Donny, did we explain the bacon? I probably asked you and then started talking again.
I don't even think I ever heard the explanation for the bacon.
It's just love. It's just love. It's just, I love you too, baby. I love you too, sweetie. It's just love. This is, Daryl was in here, very first chat. And no matter what anybody said to him or how he answered, he always had bacon in his chat. And I thought that was like he couldn't find the hearts. And he was saying something about, well, bacon is love, and then we adopted that. So you can thank Daryl. Okay. And it happened there. So now we sling bacon and shut the fuck up cakes. Sometimes you get a good cupcake, sometimes you don't. You know, it's like the Mars bar. All right, what else do we have here, sweetie? We have done the T-shirts.
Fast Honey Machinist, hello.
Hello, hey, welcome, Fast.
Hello, Jose. Hello, Ian, Mysef.
What do I want to pull out next? You know how much do I love this chat, Donny?
Oh, they're like your second family.
This is what I'm saying. And, you know, that's right, Anna. And the bacon is love. Bacon is love. Bacon wrapped scallops. You know, I haven't had that Paradox in a long time. Pretty tasty. So scallops wrapped in love. Okay. Nothing wrong with that. And, you know, the popcorn, the caramel popcorn that we've done, all that. I haven't found anything too bad. I haven't had it on ice cream yet. I know some people were talking about bacon sprinkles the other day. I don't know how that turned out. Maybe chocolate covered bacon.
So about like 3 or 4 times a week, I go to my favorite spot to get Bloody Marys, because I like really spicy stuff.
Bloody Marys.
I always put like a couple pieces of bacon in there.
What?
So I'm like literally drinking bacon. I mean, I drink it.
Let's just think about that, guys. You know, the bacon thing is different. It is different, isn't it, Corey? Not everybody has bacon, just this chat. I mean, it's incredible, right? And look where you are. You have the bacon too now. Can everybody sling some bacon at Corey, please? Anybody got some extra bacon? Anybody bring extra bacon for the class? We can toss some. Artery hardening love, Chris. Yeah, exactly. But, you know, it's any heart that's wrapped in bacon, that's like quantum entanglement love, isn't it?
Yeah.
Something like that. I mean, it's got that's some big stuff. So this is how much I love this chat. A little while ago, I came up with this because I think I started to talk about this. We took a hard left on Stephen King, didn't we?
Yeah.
Okay. We're back now, though, right?
Oh, yeah, I think
back?
we're back.
Yeah,
we're
good.
Back?
Okay, we're back.
We're good.
We good.
Yeah.
Look at all that bacon. That's what I'm talking about. That's fantastic. Look at all this love. Oh, Five Guys Bacon Shake. Do they have Five Guy Bacon Shakes? Do they have that? If Five Guys had bacon shakes, they're like $25, $30 a piece. That's just my guess. But anyway, it's possible. So we started a little thing, and normally I just do this on Monday Madness with Steve. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, it's just something that we did. But I realize it's a holiday weekend, and not everybody might be here tomorrow night, Donny.
Oh yeah, that's true. We
And
might
people
have,
that are
yeah.
here, not here now, might be here tomorrow. And some might overlap and be at both.
Mhm.
And some might not be at either one. And they're going to miss out, aren't they? Because you know what we have tonight? A long-awaited, episode of a gallery of resurrected renderings from my gatekeepers. Here you go. And it's kick-ass. You're gonna love it. Finally got it in there, Donny.
I remember when I said that.
Yeah. Get down with your bad self. Here we go. Micah! It can always be ghosts. Look at this, Chris Jarvis. What's up? $2 million sold. And Palmer. Tell us about those books, Ann. There you go, Orlando. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. Chris again. They are, Chris. And here in the headlights. Only thing higher than gas is dead. Ain't that the truth? Look at all that love. Here comes the love for bacon. Thank you, Ray. Hit that like, everybody. We appreciate it. Glenn Dennison. You like that 1963 haunting? You will scream
Tonight the
unheard.
dead will walk, and you, unbeliever, will scream unheard. Stop it! The Haunting. What do we really know of that other world of hauntings, of apparitions in the night, of the sinister powers of darkness? The Haunting was produced and directed by Robert Wise, the brilliant producer of West Side Story, and stars Julie Harris, Claire Bloom, Richard Johnson, Russ Tamblyn.
Jeebus!
You cannot deny terror. You cannot look the other way. You have to face the supernatural. Face the chilling mysteries of forces you cannot understand or control. When The Haunting holds you in its spell. The Haunting.
Is that not great? Face the supernatural. What's this? Micah again. He's talking about Amityville. They couldn't call. There it is, Donny.
Yeah, he knew karate too. Karate cowboy.
Oh gosh, yeah. He had everything. Everything. Look at him. Look at him, right, Lindsay? Yeah, it's born losers. One man becomes the law, and the trial of very guy. Great stuff. American badass. What better for the 4th of July, guys? Right? Right? We love our gatekeepers. Boom.
I like how the last ghost just kind of leaves.
Booyah!
Like, okay,
I know.
Yeah.
Booyah! 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 Little fireworks. Oh,
Like
here we
your
go.
new tie. It makes you look very handsome.
Thanks. We love you, baby. That's where they came from, Donny. Love you guys. There you go. It's Gatekeepers Gallery of Resurrected Renderings, and I love y'all. I can't fit them all, but man, we picked out some, didn't we, Donny?
Yeah, and
Lindsay
and
said
there's
that
so
was
much
so
more,
much.
too.
Thank you,
Yeah.
darling. Thank you, darling. Lots and lots of bacon. Just keep just keep saying it's only a movie. That's what I say that every 5 minutes. I say that every 5 minutes, Glenn. It's the only thing that gets me through. Ray says awesome. And y'all, Billy Jack. If you guys have not seen Billy Jack, try to pull that up. I mean, it's something. You know,
I might
I
have
went
to pull
and saw
that
it
up
in the
after
theater.
the show.
It's totally a movie.
Yeah.
What kind of books, Ann? What kind of books they keep behind the desk at the library? Tell us about those books. So another thing I wanted to say about the chat, that this chat's so freaking brilliant. we're talking about the Amityville Horror, we're talking about the Little Red Room, and I found in the chat they were talking about how photographers used to develop in little rooms, right? And they used to use a red light. I remember my sister doing the same. And we're wondering, I talked to Steve and I asked him, who's a photographer back in the 60s and 70s, and I think believe into the mid 80s. And that's absolutely possible that this room was about that size, so there may have been a photographer that lived there beforehand, painted it red, and it was a little room. You go downstairs where it's quiet, right? Oh gosh, One Tin Soldier, you know, that was done by a group called The Coven, believe it or not, and they were actually part of a coven. And again, you know, listen, I know lots of witches who aren't bitches. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I know
I never
they
heard
can
of.
be if you mess with them, but you know, there's so many people that would be called that. But practitioners of Wicca are absolutely fantastic people. You know, and I remember when they were talking about the coven that came out, and there was a lot of things in the magazines and stuff that they were, you know, practicing Wiccas and stuff. But I'll tell you what, they were some of the nicest. You know, people just listening to the stuff they said, but you know, people twisted everything. Things are still misunderstood. You know, they called us savages, so, and some of us were, no joke. Some of them still are, but you know, I heard Jordan P. Oh gosh, I can't think. You know, I'm terrible with names. Peterson said that. I think he's got a brilliant mind. Oh my God, I love him so much, and he was talking about it reminded me so much of the thought of shadow person when we're describing how usually in a lot of tribes or indigenous tribes, when they were putting on the what people now call war paint, it was, or camouflage, most of the time it was camouflage, but in some it was a ritual to pull out the shadow person, the warrior, the person that you were going to need for this job that you had next. Lots of different clans had similar stuff. But when he was talking about it, he said, you know, as a human being, you need to be a monster, but you need to learn how to control that. So, and use it at the right times, such as to slay a dragon. And he was describing what might that dragon be in today's terms. Say you're somebody who needs a job, wants a job, and doesn't mind doing the job, but you hate interviews. Well, there's your dragon. You know, so you learn how to be the monster you need to be at the time. And that's all about using that ritual to pull that out. So that might help you in your daily life if you think about it. I always had that, you know, joke with my kids. I'm like, listen, man, this is nothing. You know, we've learned how to slay dragons with, you know, 3-headed dragons with a plastic spoon. You know, and my kids would laugh, but they knew what that meant. It meant you go through the mountain, you go around it, under it, over it, whatever. If you've got to get through that mountain, you be the monster you need to be to get through that, but learn to control that. And I so understood that. I thought that was so cool. And it's just how you describe things, Donny, that resonate.
Speaking of people becoming like monsters for the purpose of war, I heard this pretty cool story real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
They said that, you know, the Huns, like Attila the Hun, you know, they come from the same general area as the Mongols come from. They used to like file down their teeth so they look like, you know, like fangs and canines, and they would like tattoo and scar up their faces, and they would do head binding on their children. They practiced that, so then their heads were elongated. So then when they showed up on the battlefield against the Romans, and the Romans had never even heard of the Huns before, and when they first showed up, the Romans didn't even realize they were fighting
blew their mind.
They thought they were fighting monsters when they first met them, until they were able to like collect one of the bodies, and then they examined it. They're like, oh, this is a human after all. But that just reminded me of that.
Absolutely, and yeah, and you know, so many did for that. You know, there's a tribe in Africa that painted themselves all white because nobody there. I mean, chalk white, because it was like an ash that they used. You know, same thing. So many different tribes had that for that initial wow. You know, and sometimes that's all you need is your foot in the door to get past that. Some people don't like talking on the phone. Some people, you know, and I never quite understood that because like they're not there. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, you know, you can talk to somebody face to face, they can actually reach out and pop you, you know, whereas on a phone, you know. And back in my day, you know, what you guys call keyboard warriors, we used to call them phone, you know, well, we didn't call them phone warriors, but something similar to it back then, because there were people that were brave on the phone and not face to face. So character development in your character and what causes you to be the way you are and other people the way they are, that goes back to talking about the Stephen King and how that character development, that was always so interesting to me. One of the movies that really, really, it doesn't show the breakdown of the character, but in some cases it does. It definitely does in Ed Beckley Sr., who is Ed Beckley Jr.'s dad. And he's in a movie with a lot of other great actors. In fact, E.G. Marshall, the one who does the CBS Mysteries, he hosts that. He's in the movie 12 Angry Men. And it's such a fantastic, you know, it's just 12 people in a room, basically. And the whole thing is just based on this character breakdown and development, how they portray themselves at first, have a little conflict, a little pressure, a little more pressure, a little fear, a little more pressure, fear, and then boom, you know, and then character and that change. It's just amazing how it unfolds in that movie. And another one that's like that is Lord of the Flies. And there's another episode, another episode of Twilight Zone. It was a fantastic rendition of this, is the one where during the nuclear families and back in the late 50s, early 60s, when they had all of that, thinking about nuclear war and everything, they started to do shelters, and they built the shelter. Do you remember this Twilight Zone? You guys remember this Twilight Zone in the chat? And the guy built the shelter, and they were all buddies. They used to play bridge or whatever the heck, you know, old farts used to do, get together and have martinis and play bridge or poker. Then it turned into poker, but normally when it was couples, it was bridge or, you know, snooker or these old things. Throw them out there. Spades, I guess. Gin rummy was another. But anyway, they were fantastic together as couples. They ribbed each other back and forth, but generally they all fell into their little character placements. And then conflict and pressure and fear. And the next thing you know, people are trying to rip the door off of the place and, you know, feed me and you have to take us in, and they're ready to kill each other. And it was just an amazing breakdown of the human psyche. Yeah. But you guys remember that episode, Twilight Zone? Yep.
There's a whole video game series based on that, actually.
Is there really?
Yeah, it's called Fallout.
Yep.
It's an entire world based on that, the same concept of that Twilight Zone episode. It's like an entire series based off it.
It's so frightening, Ian. I don't know why that was so frightening. You know, I used to know people in my day, in the 70s, older people, so bringovers from like the 40s, 50s, that wouldn't even talk on the phone when it was dark. They wouldn't answer the phone at night. They didn't. Only bad news came at night. You didn't answer the phone. You didn't talk on the phone. And you didn't talk on the phone when there was a lightning storm, because you were going to get shocked. You were going to get hit by lightning, which does happen, by the way. But still, you know.
Probably not anymore these days.
It's amazing. Yep. But I thought that was really funny when Micah said that, because he was talking about them trying to talk to each other when the priest was trying to call the Lutzes and warn them, and the Lutzes were trying to get hold of the priest. They had all the static and everything. That's when he put that up there. I thought that was pretty clever. So we got some clever people here in the chat, Donny. Absolutely.
Yeah, we definitely do.
So let's see. We are an hour in. We haven't even hit our topic tonight.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little Gettysburg tonight? I don't have a lot on Gettysburg, but I'll tell you what I got. It's what I do have. I have a nice time slip ghost story. I thought it was kind of cool. It's Civil War, what happened to some Civil War reenactors. And we have talked a lot on this show about how reenactors of anything, it doesn't have to be the Civil War, it could be, you know, Revolutionary War, it could be a moment in time, say like Ford's Theater, it could be any of these historical moments that they're reenacting that had this kind of impact of death and mourning and loss and energy, expelling of energy. We talk about that all the time as far as in any kind of battle zone. Gettysburg, absolutely, But, so we have talked about that, where the reenactment itself may trigger the ghosts to either communicate or show up more. Maybe it's the sheer amount of people showing up and everybody having that common thought. Everybody's thinking about this battle at the same time. I think that collective thought and consciousness about that could be also expelling enough energy or calling in, or I think in some cases, hi Andrew, welcome in. Hi Be Kind, welcome honey. Also, maybe I think it confuses a ghost who notices things. What do you think about that thought there, Donny? I mean, confusing a ghost where it sees people that are dressed like them. Of course, you would be drawn to that and start talking like I've told the story of how the one guy who thought he was out of ammo, a ghost actually reached into his ammo bag and pulled out ammo that they had tested. Of course, it was, the packed gunpowder and the ball and everything. But
I've
and
thought
had it
about
tested,
this,
and it
actually.
tested back in time. I couldn't believe it. So I don't know. Do you think they could be confused, Donny?
I think so, especially if, they have to be, right? If you were a ghost from the past, say the 19th century, and then you're looking at people walking around in modern clothes with modern technology and all different types of people that you've never even heard of before are walking around and speaking completely different languages, you're just going to be like, what? Huh?
Right. And, there's also the Gettysburg, and this was Gettysburg as well. Yeah, the compassion and love. And I think in some cases, Andrew, they're confused by it as well. Because a lot of times when I go on the battlefield, there's so much agitation and confusion and just the next thing. It's like when you're a soldier and you're on a 30, 40 mile march and you just think about the next step, not the next mile, but the next moving the next foot. I think in a lot of cases kind of ghosts do that too, you know what I mean? And there was one story where a lady was bringing a bunch of reenactors lunches or something. Townspeople are helping out and everybody's got something, especially if you're doing like a big movie like Gettysburg. We've got so many reenactors, there's so much activity and so many influx of equipment and different things like that and so much energy. Well, she was dropping off some stuff, had a pickup truck. Hi, Peter, welcome in. And long time no see, I hope you're doing well, love. Oh, and please send out love and healing energy to any of the gatekeepers and listeners out there that need this extra boost, maybe because of holiday, missing family or whatever, feeling a little depressed, just rip right out of that and celebrate now. And we're just going to send you good energy and healing energy to anybody out there that's struggling tonight, okay? But there you go, guys. So, so she pulls out and looks in the rearview mirror, and there's ghosts, like 5 or 6 ghosts sitting in the back, full gear, weary of battle, sitting in the pickup truck. She turns the corner and looks again because she's trying to find a way to pull over. She thought that reenactment had gotten her car, and she didn't realize what was going on in the back of her truck. And she didn't see them there. She couldn't understand how she didn't see them when she got in, and wanted to know where they needed to be dropped off. So she goes to pull over, and she looks back in the thing and turns around, looks, they're not there. They're not there. So they get in a truck that they're not familiar with. It had to look odd to them, and know enough to get in it to get a ride and then just get out. I don't get it. It's crazy.
I believe the pickup truck, the fact that it was a pickup truck to me is very interesting, because I think that most resembles a wagon from their time.
Okay, wait a minute. I got to pull the podcast over. Corey Cole says that they have some photo evidence that might interest. Okay, interest who? Me or Donnie or all of us?
He was asking for my email address earlier, which I put up.
Is this paranormal photography, or are you blackmailing me somehow? Because it's I'm just joking.
I have some potential for. Oh man, he could be blackmailing
That's
me.
funny.
He could be
I
like
could be
sending me a
getting
picture of doing
blackmailed
something I
live on
shouldn't
the
have been doing.
I'm just joking. It just sounded funny. It
There's
sounded
a lot
funny.
of stuff in Korea I did that I shouldn't have been doing.
Can you guys hear the fireworks that are going off over my head? I mean, this whole place. I'm on the water, and everybody in the area is just all around the ocean is just blowing off fireworks right now. Every boat, every house. Can you hear it? It's crazy, the fireworks. So before I forget, because the fireworks are reminding me here, for everybody that's in the U.S. or anybody that's out of the U.S. and celebrating. If I can find it. Happy 4th of July, everybody. I love y'all. I love y'all. I don't have Betty Boop. We have this Betty Boop. We have Memorial Day Betty Boop. You know, she's red, white, blue. She's dressed correctly. We'll bring her in here for the 4th of July. There you go. Happy 4th of July, everybody. So, also, since it's the 3rd of July, there is a Gatekeepers having a really good time right now, I hope. And they are killing it, Jersey style, in Asbury Park, on the boardwalk, under the fireworks, at the freaking Stone Pony. Yeah, watching Flogging Molly for his birthday. So I wish a very, 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 very happy birthday. Wait a minute, I have a special.
Oh, and nice. You got to have that tone go off right. That was perfect timing, sister.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
A very, very happy birthday. So quick, happy birthday. You can't really see it because of the candle, but that's a shut the fuck up cake for your birthday. Happy birthday. We love you.
Happy
we
birthday.
love you. That's a good kind of cupcake because it's got sprinkles. That's good.
Oh, I thought that was for him. And then.
No, I have 5 more. That one's mine.
Oh, that one's for you. Okay.
Yeah. We can keep the candle.
Yeah.
But happy birthday and have a great, great time. And if you know his story, you know how much he's actual.
Oh, yeah.
Miracle.
Chris Jarvis says, Happy Treason Day. Well, technically, yeah. I guess we did commit treason.
Yeah.
We committed treason and we won.
Sometimes little treason never hurt anybody.
Yeah.
Tis a season for treason, baby. Right? But there it is. And, well, we become friends with our wonderful.
Yeah, we kissed and made up, and we became
kissed
pals.
And made up.
Yeah.
You know, taxation without, and all that tea and all. There seemed to be something about tea we didn't like a lot.
Yeah.
And, there was all that other stuff. But, I think, progress, we don't want to talk about progress isn't always good. And,
And we still, traded and bought their products, and they bought our products, and we eventually, copied their TV shows. And
Yep. But there was another, it's so strange if you look at it. First, everybody that came over, the Vikings that came over and did the stuff that they did. And then the Native Americans were here and they were, there was fighting amongst them. There's not all, they were all, weren't all good. You can't put everybody in a thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's good and bad in everything, So there was definitely tribes that, mess with each other and, take their stuff.
And there were some very brutal Native Americans.
Absolutely.
So, they were not all peaceful and, just one with nature. There were some that would tear people up.
Yep, and all the the Dutch, the Spanish, and all those Quakers and Puritans and everybody that was getting thrown out of their country came over here. And look, I discovered this. There's nobody here, and we just kept saying in Lenape, "Hey" is very much like aloha. It can mean hello and goodbye at the same time because we were like, "Hey, hey, 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 hey," and we kept moving. Moved all the way from the East Coast to Oklahoma. That still wasn't enough. But then, people thought about keeping what they had and had a dream about having a collective of different things like a patchwork quilt, and then somehow even with our differences, stand together because everybody wanted basic rights. They wanted the right to do what they wanted to do as long as they weren't hurting other people. Mm-hmm. Practice the religion they wanted to, whether it be Wicca or Quaker or Puritan or, all these other. And isn't it funny how everybody thinks they're better than everybody else? Everybody thinks they're right and everybody else is wrong. Mm-hmm. I wish we could get to the point where everybody's a little right, and if you start doing wrong, then you're wrong, So, because I think there's more common ground than anything else, because that's the thing. Most people just want to be okay. They want to have food, shelter, and the pursuit of happiness. You're not promised happiness. You're just promised you can pursue it,
Yeah.
And you have the right to defend it, and you have the right to religion, no religion, spirituality, to whatever. You can be an asshole as long as you're not hurting other people doing it, because you can't look at all the different people. It didn't take them long to get kicked out of wherever they were and get persecuted enough to want to go on that horrible, horrible long journey with sickness and God knows what else, to go through all of that. And then when they got here, they started making it like they just escaped and started doing it to other people.
Yeah.
So, you know, like I said, we learned from history a little bit, and today, this weekend, is the 159th anniversary of a 3-day battle that was in a little town that happened to be in a really good location in Pennsylvania. And it's called Gettysburg. And Donny, you've been to Gettysburg. What have you thought about
a couple
Gettysburg?
times.
What's been your thoughts on Gettysburg?
First of all, when you're there and you look at the landscape, it's pretty clear why they chose it to be a battlefield, because there's so many like strategic areas, and you can see all the like the lookout areas. It's like hills overlooking like all this like flat, and then hills again, and then woods, and I'm just like, wow, I can see why they chose this place to be the battlefield.
Yeah, it's that
it's kind of set up to be that way. And you know, it is very haunted, and there's a lot of mystery in that place, and there's a lot of physical mystery as well, right? Because like there's mineral deposits, there's running water, there's you know, and then there's just a whole bunch of like new energy and old energy, and just a lot of memory and a lot of ghosts, and
second that emotion, Peter.
And a lot of history there too.
Yeah, and it's funny. We were talking earlier. They're mentioning the tea, and they're talking about the tea. We were talking about how nobody drank the water, right? We were talking about that with Lincoln and everything, about how Tad died from typhus from the water. And you'd think that's 100 years in. I mean, past. These guys crossing, and everything going on. They just drank beer and wine. And that's what they brought with them. The crew had enough on there to get back and wouldn't give it to them. And the guys going, just drink the water. Drink the water. It's good over here. Drink the water. But they wouldn't touch it. So that was a big thing too. And they quick settled into learning how to ferment different things on hand. And that's how everybody got different things. Like you fermented what you had on hand, like Russian the potatoes, and just everything from corn to peach brandy. It just depended on what you had in your area, and
either that or
crazy.
Either that or stuff it in a barrel full of salt. That's pretty much the only way you can like keep food back then.
Well, the thing is during Gettysburg, it was actually it was a big thing was Gettysburg. The huge thing was Clara Barton, who ladies started to get together and got with the old people that were probably called witches back in the day, because they used herbs and stuff, if the wrong person pointed at you. But they basically said if you boil the water, it kills, they weren't even boiling the water to clean instruments and bandages and things like this. I mean, it's hard. If you ever want to see a good, really good show of the beginning, middle, and end of the war, North and South, and I think... who was it? Was it Patrick Swayze in that? I know Stacy Keach was. He played a great part of it, but I think it was Patrick Swayze. Correct me if I'm wrong. Great miniseries. The 70s were also really proud of their miniseries, trust me. But that was really good. So that was the thing. This battle... Truly, this is where, Lincoln and the Union were really losing. I mean, we had, for all my, war people out there, I mean, I'm sure that there's people in here that can, talk about this battle chapter and verse, so to speak, what company, where, who was in charge, what. I know a little, enough to get myself into trouble. I've got my favorites and I follow them, of course, the whole little round top, and big, who doesn't love that story of hold the line, hold to the last what, last bullet, the last man, the last breath. But again, Patrick Swayze, thank you, Sasha Bell. And it was good, wasn't it? Everybody had long hair, and they had all those uniforms and all those those swords and everything. Wow, right? So but yeah, it was very well done. Again, all of the Jeff and Michael Shera that whole thing. I don't know if they ever completed Last Full Measure of Devotion, but that was the third book. The first one was Gods and Generals, which they did make a movie of. Very well done. Killer Angels, which is the Gettysburg movie, and then the Last Full Measure of Devotion. Of course, the aftermath and the rest of the battles after that, because Gettysburg was like smack dab in the middle of it. Beforehand, the Union was not winning. We had the numbers on the men. We had the backing. We had uniforms because we had factories. We had the machinery. We had, the trains. We had the transportation. A lot of that. And they thought it was going to be over very quickly. But the intestinal fortitude of the American soldier, whether it be North or South, was still well embedded in a human being. And when you feel like you're fighting for everything you've got, and you think that you're fighting on the side of right, nothing's going to stop you. I mean, anybody that thinks that young men from Georgia or Florida or Texas was fighting for, slavery or this or that, that's not what was going on. What was going on was states' rights. The right for you to be able to live as you want to live within your state. And they did not understand how, this man in a tall hat in this little place in Washington that they would never see in their lifetime, they thought. Some wound up seeing it. But could tell them what they could and could not do. Everybody, it was all about money, it was all about power, and it was all about control. And it was all about, if you read the journals of Lincoln, believe it or not, he was very disliked at the time. You think things are heated now. It was very, a lot of people didn't understand his way of getting around a room. Now, for all you Lincoln people out there, correct me again if I'm wrong, but he gets a lot of play and a lot of, Steve Stockton,
Hey, Steve.
Hello, love. Hello, darling. How you doing, baby? Can't wait to see you tomorrow. You can pop in here if you want. We're talking about Gettysburg and such. So, the way it all was, he gets a lot of props, and he does, for surrounding himself with people who disagreed with him. Because he wanted to hear that opposing thought. He wanted to have a debate. He wanted to hear different ideas. Unfortunately, the people that disagreed with him also didn't quite get him, and they underestimated his mind, and they underestimated why he was doing the things he was doing, and also why he told so many anecdotes and jokes. Very much like a lot of smart people that came through and spoke in parable. That you get that a lot Native American, a lot of tribes and traditions as well. Because within that parable, there are so many multiple lessons, and they're almost a living, breathing thing that moves with you, like the tale of the white and black wolf, the good and the bad. Not to say that black is bad and white is good. It's just to differentiate. Don't get hung up on the color. One day I hope wolves will be judged by the content of their character and not by the color of their fur.
Yeah.
Are we there yet? So that's the thing with Lincoln, and I think it got him killed. Much like Caesar. Much like a lot of powerful people, because as Lincoln said, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So that was going on during Gettysburg, and Lincoln basically had multiple Union generals. I think about 6 at the time they got up to Gettysburg. I could be wrong on that. It could be like 4. But yep, the War of Northern Aggression. That's right, Steve. There are still statues in the South that say that they won, I guarantee you. And that's fine. We all won the day the fighting stopped. That's where we won. Let's stop and let's talk about it. Let's not try to do this again, because we're fighting each other. It doesn't make any sense. There should have been a way around it, just what was good for everybody. But you wish that things could be done in a chess room or in a room where people just go to talk and the people have a voice, and they say, well, we don't want to live like that. Okay, Georgia is doing it this way. Go there, but you're still an American. You know, I think a lot of that's going on now. You know,
Yeah.
people are picking where they want to go by the atmosphere of the people, more so than the atmosphere of the territory. Isn't that funny? You know, people are seeking like-mindeds, you know. And in the Civil War in Gettysburg, as Donny said, everything just kind of converged by accident. Lee was told by Jefferson Davis he would march into Washington, D.C. and place a letter with their demands on the desk of Lincoln. And he was on his way to do it. Hello, Blue, welcome in. And he was on his way to do it. Multiple different units and everybody converged at this one spot because it's right smack in the middle, isn't it, Donny? There's a monument you can climb up and you can see, on, you know, especially in that day, now buildings stop and everything else, but you could just almost see into these major cities. It's an amazing, amazing spot. And
Yeah.
Lee himself said, I did not plan, from his journals, he said he did not plan on having a battle here, but it seemed that God himself wished it to be so. So here
Yeah,
will
it
be.
looked like the landscape was almost designed to be a
Perfect.
battlefield. Yeah.
Perfect. Yep. And Buford and his regiment got in there first. They were waiting for backup from Reynolds. And if you watch the movie or read the book, Gettysburg, it really does have a good layout there. That's basically almost a lifetime for Jeff Shera. And going through journals and massive amounts of information and data, you know, to try to put all that together. It's an amazing work. And they did a good job in the movie. And of course, the book has so much more. But he basically, Longstreet and him, Longstreet wasn't agreeing with what he was doing. I don't know whether Lee just overestimated, because his men would do anything for him, much like Patton. There's so many generals like this, but such a beloved man by his men and many people to this day. And he just wanted, he was fighting for Virginia. How many people know that he was Lincoln's first choice to command the Union? He sat in front of Lincoln, who he loved. They both, you know, really admired and respected each other. And, you know, Lee just, it broke his heart, but he said, no, I cannot. I have to, I am a Virginia man, and I have to fight for Virginia. And he left, and, you know, the rest is history, literally. So, you know, it really was a time divided, and it was a time of confusion. And if you really got inside of around the fires at night and you talked to the individuals, they were young Americans. There was over 5,000 women that posed as men. That's the count they have. I'm sure there was much more. Some of it took, you know, like we said before, took up after their husbands. Some just didn't want to be alone. Some were just women in the town that wanted to fight. They didn't want to be left behind. Didn't want to, you know, miss the excitement, and then got involved and got caught up. So I've got a little video here. Did you want to say anything before we throw this down, Donny? You want to go smoke? You got about 10 minutes if you want to go.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to add, you know, civil wars are different from regular wars in that, like, both sides really lose no matter who wins.
Good, well put.
So it's often been in the interests of most civilizations to keep them as short as possible, right? Because ultimately, civil wars is what took down the Roman
Well,
Republic.
they thought it was going to be
Empire.
over in about 15 minutes in
Yeah.
Bull Run. It's also called Manassas. Both sides, the South and the North, actually sometimes called the same battle different names based on, you know, whether some was a lake, some was a town, some was whatever. So Manassas and Bull Run is actually the same. There was two battles there, and it was one of the first ones. And everybody gathered their picnic lunches and their carts and their horses and their families and put on their best duds like they were going to a Sunday social, and went and sat and thought that they were going to watch a very quick battle be ended within minutes. And they wound up like you see in Jurassic Park, first comes the oohing and the eyeing, and then comes the running and the screaming.
Yeah.
Because that was a horrible, bloody battle. They didn't know what they were going to see, and they really got it. That was the first time that civilians and politicians really got to see how awful and bloody this battle was going to be.
Yeah.
And for the whole Civil War. And Gettysburg was right smack dab in the middle of it. It really turned the whole war. And it could have ended right there. It broke Lincoln's heart because Meade did not chase Lee across the Potomac and back into Virginia. He let him go. And Lincoln, a very, very compassionate man. This war just about killed him. If you look at his pictures from beginning to end, a 56-year-old man. He was 56-year-old when he got shot in Ford's Theater, and he looked like he was 70, 80. He really did.
Yeah.
So I'm going to play this little bit. It's got a little of my narration in there. I've got a little bit of stuff for afterwards, but this is a little collaboration I did just for this little Battle of Gettysburg here on the 159th anniversary. Can you imagine? And we're still arguing today. Ain't that something? Here
I'll
we
be
go,
on my
guys.
phone outside.
Go ahead, sweetie. Don't miss the graphics. You're going to love them, Donny.
No, I'll be watching. I got my
All
phone
right.
right here.
All right, guys, here you go. I did this for you. Enjoy.
The three-day Battle of Gettysburg not only marked the turning point in the course of the American Civil War, but also for the future of the United States of America. July 1st, 1863, the first shot rang out in the early morning hours. By its closing on the evening of July 3rd, It would be known to history as the bloodiest battle of the Civil War. There were over 51,000 military casualties as a result of the Battle of Gettysburg. These were Americans on both sides, a true brother against brother scenario. They were mostly farmers by trade on both the Union and Confederate sides. Some officers from both sides went to West Point together, creating lasting memories and bonds they carried with them to the fields of fire, facing each other across the peach orchard, the wheat field, or over the boulders and rock ditches of Devil's Den. They were fathers and sons, husbands and sweethearts. One man, a 69-year-old veteran of the War of 1812, a Mr. John Burns, heard the first shots invading his town. He grabbed his high-top hat and blue swallowtail coat, the musket he used in the War of 1812, and ran across the street to his neighbor and friend, David Broadhead. "Broadhead, get your musket and get your balls. We're gonna fight the Rebs." Broadstreet hollered back, "I have the musket, but I don't have the balls. I'm not a-going." Well, he joined the Union soldiers anyway and proved himself a hero that day. When they were overrun, John threw away his musket and buried his ammo beneath him in the dirt, wounded 4 times. He told the Confederate officer that stood above him that he got caught up, and could they please carry him home. The Confederate officer said, "We can do that." And John lived to meet President Lincoln the day that Lincoln came to give his famous Gettysburg Address. John is buried here under an American flag. Many names and faces made their name in history those famous days, but not as many would have made it into our memory without the photographers, Alexander Gardner and Timothy O'Sullivan. It took a team. Mr. O'Sullivan's photography skills would prove one of the most famous, and here we see some of his work. The photographic method used then, the glass plate wet process, took a lot of work. This is an actual picture of an early photo development booth with O'Sullivan standing proudly beside it. It is for us the living rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which is they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to this great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause from which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Abraham Lincoln, November 19th, 1863. Who were they? They were soldiers. They are fathers and sons, husbands and sweethearts, orphans of war, and those left behind to mourn. They walk the fields of battle, they stand watch at the stone walls, sit upon the boulders of Devil's Den and guard still. Still. Physical signs of the battle can still be found in Gettysburg. But for those of us who feel the horror of a battle on American soil with other Americans, face to face, is lasting enough. As George Santayana said, if we do not learn from history, we are destined to repeat it. The years since the battle, many have come together to share their stories, to pass along the wisdoms only war can teach, in hopes that those they're telling the stories to will never have to learn them firsthand. The ground remembers, the rock remembers, the buildings and roads remember, and the wind carries the memory along with it as it blows down the hollowed ditches that sheltered weary soldiers while waiting for the bullets to fly again. You can sometimes hear the rock walls being built still by hands from over 150 years ago. No, the ghosts that are here do not wish to be forgotten. They were fathers, brothers, sons, husbands, and sweethearts, and I cannot forget them.
That was Can I? Oh. Can I?
That's all I have to say, man. That gets me. Go ahead.
I was curious about something I saw there, actually. There was that bit where Lincoln, that you saw a photo of him, like in the distance, right?
Yes.
And what did it say? That was like the only photo that they found of Lincoln?
It's a fun fact that up until 1952,
Yeah.
they did not think that they ever had a picture of Lincoln at the Gettysburg Address at Evergreen Cemetery, but that was found in someone's belongings in an estate, and that's him. And they said that day he was very solemn, of course, for the day and his surroundings. I mean, he felt this. He felt this.
Yeah.
You know, he lost children. When he, his wife was batshit crazy. He loved her dearly, but she was batshit crazy. Came by it honest, organically. She lost children. Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, you'd be surprised how long that took trying to find footage for you guys and stuff. But, I had to tell about John Burns. He ran across to get his neighbor. Grab your musket and your balls. And of course, they were talking about ammunition, but you gotta love it. This is in the journals, And for those of us who look back at history and think that people didn't curse or talk like we do today, it's crazy because they did. I mean, women and men back and forth. Of course, they were a little more eloquent, and they kind of beat around the bush, so to speak. But they were very, I long for this kind of Harlequin romance kind of language of talking these deeply sexual conversations, to the point where, before women died, they had the stack, and men too, they had the stack of letters wrapped in, ribbon, or a handkerchief or something like that, or a box at least, a special box that smelled like perfume and had all their memories in it. Mm-hmm. And they burnt them before they died because they were mortified to think that somebody would know that they even had those thoughts. But they said them and they had them, right? Yeah,
19th century style.
Yeah.
Sexy texting, I guess.
Thank you so much. I'm glad, Ann. Because this is it. We have to remember what times like today is. There's not a day you can pick in the year that if you went back through history, somebody didn't do some shit. And it may very well be some very powerful stuff. Thank you, Gray. That's my PayPal, guys. If you want to help this channel out, you want to throw $1 at PayPal. If you want to, I was going to say buy me a coffee for $1. I remember when coffee was a dime. I shit you not. In a little white styrofoam cup. Anybody that's my age absolutely remembers this. I mean, throw dimes up. You can make a phone call for a dime. Jeez. But anyway, If you want to throw $1 that way, I certainly appreciate it. Again, I promise it always goes to this show and continue this show through, and some things that are coming up due to wonderful people that have donated. One specifically said they wanted me to go to Gettysburg, so that money is being used to go to Gettysburg. Donnie's going to make sure of it because he's going too, right, Don?
Yeah. Yep. I'm definitely going to be there.
And some others, we're going to
that reminds me,
Gettysburg
I still haven't booked my room yet.
Get it. I mean, they've already sold out 3 hotels, people.
Yeah.
3 hotels.
Well,
They have sold out. Well,
we're thinking of doing an Airbnb.
Well,
So,
you know what? I mean, that could be the
I think an
thing.
Airbnb would be the way to go. For
Absolutely.
This one.
Just get close to it because you have to think, too. Make sure you check on the map because the fields. This is in a place where you've got farmlands and you've got acreage for just, days.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
Make sure you're close enough, too. You've been there. You've been to the Wyndham.
Yep, I've been there.
It's at the Wyndham at Gettysburg. And thank you again for that anonymous donor. You know who you are. And all the donors. And it doesn't matter if it's a like, a share, or whatever. Oh, gosh, Fast. Thank you so
Fast
much.
Vending Machinist.
Love you, Donny. Thank you so much. I hate to even mention it, but people like to do this. People like to do super chats. Thank you so much, Fast. And they like to do promote shows that they dig. And we're an acquired taste here. It tastes like bacon, I think, Donny. It tastes a little like bacon.
Yeah.
But it also tastes like home and comfort. And Donny was so right with that. How'd you like that gallery, man? That was pretty. It was happening, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
It was happening.
Man.
And Donnie said that how long ago? It was a while ago, and I started doing it. But see, this is the thing. It takes time, and then a show comes up, and we're doing research. Donnie's digging like crazy. I'm digging. Normally, it comes up day of, or sometimes months before.
Yeah.
And then we had one where we were digging for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then we were going to do the show, but it seemed like real life got a little bit too close, and we didn't want to take you guys down that hole, so we picked something fun. And
I know the show that which you speak, yes.
Shifting back and forth, just because it means more to us and everybody that has something to do with the show. Steve,
it was a real shame, too, because I found some real juicy bits for
Sandy,
that one.
Well, we'll do it in the future, but at the time, our main goal is to shift your guys' thinking, let you guys talk amongst yourselves. Sometimes you have conversations. You notice that I don't add those to the gallery because I think that that's just, kind of like a private conversation. Not really a private conversation. It's amongst, whoever's looking, but, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That's between you guys, and that's what we're here for. Because we've got people giving advice back and forth, throwing out ideas, like the Red Room being a photography room. I had never thought about that before, although I had photographers that actually did that whole 35 millimeter. I mean, that was the shit in the 70s.
Yeah.
35 millimeter camera. People had them around their neck all the time. They're always taking pictures. The click, click, click. If you were a novice, you might have had later on an Instamatic with the flash bulbs. It gave you 4 flashes, and it was called the Cube, and it would turn around and every time you took a picture, you burn in flash bulbs, and that was the thing at the parties now. And then you had the Instamatic, the Polaroid stuff. I mean, I can remember holding my sister's camera that she had collected. She was in the Navy during Vietnam, and she was a photographer, and that was her gig, and she collected some cameras, and I held a Brownie. And if you don't know what a Brownie is, it's the one where it pops up, looks like an accordion, and you look down into it like this to take your picture, and you take it out this way. It's amazing the way cameras have changed. And in here, I had put in about Thomas O'Sullivan. And the whole thing is, hi, Toby!
Yeah,
Welcome, little gatekeeper. We got furry gatekeepers here, guys. That's Toby. He's definitely one. He likes to wait till the show gets live, and then he knocks the garbage over.
Yeah, and then
He's got
he'll
skills.
just tear stuff up when I'm staring at the screen. And
I love the 35 millimeter. Yep, the Nikon. I mean, there's been songs written about it. Paul Simon. You remember? Oh gosh, what's the name of the? I think come on, Blue. What's the name of the song? All the crap I learned in high school. Oh gosh, I can hear it playing in my head. Wait a minute, the chorus is coming. Hang on, it's coming. You know which one I'm talking about? You're not a Paul Simon or 1970s pop stuff. I need somebody.
I'm the last
Do you
person
know
to
which
ask
song?
about that.
It's called Kodachrome. Yeah, thank you, Leslie.
I mean, I didn't even know who the Allman Brothers were.
I
I
can
had to
hear
like
it.
research
Couldn't you
that.
hear it? Yeah, yeah. I got Nikon camera. Love to take the photograph. Oh yeah, man. I'll tell you what. Those songs, they were something else. He had another one called oh gosh, what was the name of it? It was so good. Something about no, it wasn't him. Who did Me and Julio Down by the Schoolyard? That wasn't Paul Simon, was it? I don't know. You guys think on that. Throw it up in the chat if you get Kodachrome. Yep. It was so good. I love that song. Everybody's thinking it now. Can you hear it? Yeah. Don't take my Kodachrome away. Yep. It was a big deal, the whole pictures. Now we just take them for granted, I think, in a way. You know, and we even take precious pictures of like grandkids and stuff and leave them in Facebook. And then if Facebook shuts you down, where'd they go, you know? So make sure you back that stuff up. Don't get so used to it, because we used to treat them like, you know, you go to take the film, you'd actually carry the film down to the place to get it done. You know, I can remember it was like maybe drugstores. Then they had those photo mats where you had to drive up. A little photo mat. It was even in the 70s show. And you couldn't wait to get the pictures back. Huh?
I used to work on one of those. Like
Yeah.
just printing people's photos and
Yeah. That was a big thing.
35 millimeter film and
Yeah. In the 70s. Yeah. The 70s, man. Yeah. There was Julio. Wait a minute. Here we go. Julio was Paul Simon. Okay. Stuck in my head now. It's good though, but it's a good stuck in my head. It's not like one of these irritating. It's not Baby Shark, you know. It's a little bit better. Here we go. Toby, be kind. Say hi to Toby.
Yeah, he's not. He decided to like
go to the Rexall.
No, he's lying down now. He's like, okay, I'm done with you.
Was it Me and Julio Down by the Schoolyard? Was it Paul Simon? Okay. You know what else I was thinking of? That one, My Name is Michael, I Got a Nickel. That wasn't Paul Simon. That was some one-hit wonder dude, right? Okay. It was hard because I listened to that stuff, but I couldn't look like I was listening to that stuff. But you kind of picked it up because it was like in your soundtrack of, you know, that decade. And I was like AC/DC and, you know, Judas Priest. And, you know, I went to Iron Maiden concerts. I really wasn't into them, but I tolerated them. You know, you had to, back then you had to make known who you were, you know. You had the Dan Fogelberg crowd and the you know, the Debbie Gibson and not Debbie Gibson. What was the name? Oh gosh, the one who did You Light Up My Life. You know, that crowd. You had that. You know, you had that bunch, and then you had all the, you know, the stoners in the back of the bus wearing all the real leather jackets and things like that, kind of the greasers of their time, listening to, you know, Zeppelin and, you know, Ronnie James Dio came later and stuff like that. So everybody had their thing, and you had the punk crowd sticking safety pins in themselves, and that's why, you know, people, I think Steve and I were talking about this last week, when people say Marilyn Manson or this one here or that one there did this one. I'm like, I saw Alice Cooper did that shit back in the, you know, we've seen it all. It's just, it's the same. It's just almost like a cycle, you know. And if you cycle it back 159 years, what'd you have today? There were young people, 16 years old, 17, 18, 19. In the case of some of these townspeople, look here at Mr. What was his name? John Byrne. He was 69. And that tough old coot, you know, he got caught when they got overrun. He quick buried his ammo, made like he wasn't fighting, and just said that he was looking for a friend of his wife, came out here, and he was worried for her safety, and he got caught up in this battle, and could they please carry him home? And the Confederate officer and the Confederate squad that was with him, who kept telling the officer, let's just shoot him and get it over with, they had just shot a bunch of Yankees, so, you know, why not? And he could have been caught as a traitor because he was in civilian clothes. I mean, so many things could have happened to Byrne. And he got so lucky, and they carried him, put him on a carriage, and told the carriage to take him back to his home. And he had shot probably more Confederates that day than half the men out there. But, you know, those stories, those stories. There's also a picture I threw up there of this young girl. I think I've got another picture. Me and Julio down by the schoolyard. Be kind. I know, right? Good stuff. It was good stuff. You know, some of those. That's when so many different. The explorer, you know, the whole electric guitar, and you know, Les Paul, and of course Les Paul came out with Les Paul and Mary Ford, and I can remember my mom having me listen to those albums on the stereo that was like furniture, and Les Paul could tear. He's the one who changed rock and roll forever. You know, and if you could hear what he did to a guitar, and him and the early stuff and the early sound experiments and things that Les Paul and Mary Ford did, it was absolutely groundbreaking, literally, you know. And so the 70s were just, everybody was doing stuff with, you know, guitar. I mean, there was, geez, the stuff, man. And the first time, look, we were so into it that somebody like Peter Frampton from Humble Pie could come out and do some wah 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 wah, was this mouth harp thing, and everybody just lost their, you know, collective self. You know, that Grateful Dead, you had that crowd. I promised Be Kind. I think it was Be Kind, and it might have been Anne, the story about the hair. Okay, and it's a 4th of July story. Donny, how lucky. How freaking lucky. Okay, here we go.
Perfect time.
Where I grew up, Wall High School, not far from here. Not far at all. Anyway, I grew up there. At my high school would have a fair every year, has for decades, had one this weekend, it's going on right now. And when I was in high school, I mean, I went as a kid. My mom brought me. It was fireworks, you know, the typical thing. You know, the stuff that's brought in, the rides and stuff, the Ferris wheel and the booths, and then you've got people that you know from the school that have booths, and the drama club and all this stuff, right? Talk box.
Mm-hmm.
You mean the talk box? Oh yeah, the talk box, Frampton. Yeah, we went nuts. It was crazy. So many teenagers fell in love to that crap. I can't tell you. As many that fell in love in the back of the '57 Chevy with some of those, you know, little surfer songs and all that stuff. So anyway, so I'm there and I get suckered in because I'm in the drama club. I was in the marching band. I was a color guard. I twirled a flag. I wasn't a twirler. Okay, I had a big ass flag with a big spike on the end of it, you know. And we did something to Rocky, and I remember some of the songs. I know we did Tusk, we did Rocky. I remember that one, and I remember the one MacArthur Park. Anybody remember that song? MacArthur, the sweet green icing flowing down. Oh my God, MacArthur Park! What a sucker! Oh, this song. Just feel my pain. Anyway, so Wall Fair. The big thing was the fireworks scene. The fireworks on the 4th of July. Everybody and God came. Okay? It was the thing to do, and then you went to the boardwalk after if you were lucky and you were dating. You know, that's where you met up. So, I get suckered into running this booth for one of these clubs I'm involved in. I fell in love 4 times that weekend, I swear to God. But it was one of those summers. Do you know what I'm saying? You know, people, you meet new people. Now we had bands, we had rock and roll bands. And there was a garage band that got on stage. And I was usually rhythm guitar and drummers. This guy was a bass player. Hair down, almost like past his waist. Beautiful, long, brown hair. Fantastic dude. Big 70s mustache, like the porn stash, yeah. Great bass player. They broke loose with some Frampton. I don't remember what else happened, right? And this, all I remember is his hair, barefoot, bell-bottom blue jeans. I was stunned. With the blue jean button up, with the love beads underneath. Need I say more?
So what was he wearing on top?
The blue jean, it was a blue jean shirt, button-up Levi's, has a little tag on that. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? And the bell-bottom blues. There you go. And barefoot. And I always sang, when I sing blues, I do barefoot. It's a thing. It's like, it's a vibration thing. Also, it's almost like, it's spiritual. It's like holy ground, right, Blue? I swear to God. So a lot of singers do that. I'm one of them. So I focused, and it was, and it was the hair. So anyway, I was kind of young. He was a little older. And I had to fight the parental guidance people. I got this. I know what I'm doing. We went through he had a van, oh my God. He was a rock and roller, oh my God. And he had the hair. So anyway, we got the date. We went to a great Hawaiian place. It was great. I ate mugu by Guy Pan. I didn't know it was duck. Never happened again. I'll never forget it. Anyway, it was a great date.
What's wrong with it being duck?
Let's not talk. I don't want to talk about it, Donny.
Oh.
I didn't know. I was snuck the duck. And
Oh.
I had to eat it because the guy paid a lot of money. It's a fancy place. First date. I ate the duck. I've never forgot. I had a bad experience, Donny. I couldn't do it. I'm not one of those people. Like pheasant and, I don't want to think about it. You know me, Donny. I can't do the animals.
Yeah.
So anyhow, but this guy, right? Girls, we've had to eat the duck before. So anyway, this is it. This is it right here. We fought like crazy, got permission for the date. This guy was so serious. He cut his hair. I opened the door. He didn't want them to reject him because of his hair. He cut the hair. It was like Samson. From the moment I opened the door till way past the duck, I was done. Because it gone. I can't explain it.
That hair is everything.
Like the Samson. Am I right?
Yeah.
But my heart, because he did it, for me, I'm stuck. What kind of a person would I be, right?
Yeah.
So I'm hanging in there. I'm trying to hold on, but the whole time I'm like...
Your jaw must have been open. You must have been like, what the...
I handled it like a pro. Inside, it was just total chaos.
You must have been total flabbergasted.
Chaos. The outside, I was chill. Chill.
I would have been confused as hell.
I'll have that. Lovely place. What are we drinking? And then you have to go through that whole thing like I'm underage.
Yeah.
I was like 15. Good God. I had no business doing what I was doing, but I was doing it. That's just the God's honest truth. And that's what happens when, you get that kind of it was a stunner. But I rode the whole thing out. I rode that whole thing out almost to fall. Just because he deserved the extra consideration because he cut his hair, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you can't diss him because he did it for you.
I was
that
stuck.
Was a gesture.
There was no turn. There was no U-turn.
And it probably took him a long while to grow his hair that long too.
Can you believe? I mean, what a. Am I wrong in thinking that that's a lot of pressure to put on somebody?
He should have given you a warning at least.
Yeah, he could. Well, telephones, right?
Yeah.
I mean. It wasn't like you were texting every 5 minutes and each other what you're having for lunch and stuff. It was, you might get a call. It might be days before you hear from somebody again,
Damn,
the dude lost his magic by cutting his hair. Whatever magic he was using on me, I don't know. He should have just grabbed. And then he does this. God bless him. He takes me to his house. We go to his house to meet his buddy because we're all going to dinner. And he's an absolute deadhead. And I'm not. At the time I wasn't. I'm AC/DC. This is kind of like it. But I was AC/DC. I was, but I was also Loggins Messina and Meatloaf, so there was room. But I didn't understand the whole dead thing because that was a whole other section of my
dead thing? What
world.
dead thing?
The dead, the dead, the Grateful Dead.
Oh, the Grateful Dead. Sorry.
The Grateful Dead is like it's not a band. It's a lifestyle and it's a movement. It's what would you call it? Cult? It's not really. I wouldn't say cult. Maybe you'd say a cult. I don't know. It's tie-dye cult. but it's based on music. I mean, it's not
I
unlike
always
people
thought
that
of it
follow
as,
like Fish around and stuff.
I always thought of it as K-pop for hippie stoners.
Well, I don't know. The songs are very, I don't know. I just never jumped into that
I heard a
canoe.
couple of their songs. I'm like, meh.
Yeah, I never
Yeah.
jumped into that canoe. I mean, it's a thing, right, Anna? It's a thing. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, it's not. I didn't dislike him. It's just like when he put it on, I didn't like. Oh my God, dead! You know, I was probably like, you got any AC? Or I probably just listened to it and I'm like, you know, Sugar Magnolia was the first. You know,
Yeah.
dead. I'm listening. It was like, oh, okay. You know, it's good. Yeah, I'm digging it. You know, but it wasn't. Yeah, yeah, Fish. That's right, Blue. But I was more like, if it had been Loggins and Messina, I would have been, you know, Meatloaf. I'd have been, oh my God, Jim Steinman, you know, Ramones, you know.
I'm
know.
sorry, I know very little of 70s
Eclectic.
music, so like
A
most
lot
of
the
these
people
names
in
are
the,
just
in the chat know, and it was also very East Coast what was going on here at the Boardwalk too, and it was, you know, Springsteen was coming up and all that, you know. I used to be a huge, you know, not
Like,
a huge Springsteen fan, but you know, we have history with Springsteen. Go ahead.
like I just found out last week who the Allman Brothers were.
Yeah, fantastic. You know the first Allman Brothers song? Do you remember what the first one I sent you was, Donny?
Yeah, I actually like that song. I listened to
It's
it a couple
beautiful.
times. I was like, this is a good jam, actually. This
Tell the
music's
chat
pretty
what
good.
it was.
Was it like Marissa or something?
Sweet Melissa.
Sweet Melissa? Yeah.
That was a
I
good
was like,
start
I like
for
this
Almonds,
song.
huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had never
yeah.
heard of them.
We were
At first,
thinking
I thought it
about
was the Almond Brothers. I was like, their names are Almond
No,
Brothers?
it's
But then-
Almond. Yeah, Almond.
Yeah.
So anyway, I've got a little ghost story here. You want to do a ghost story and do another cigarette break, guys? And then we're probably out of here. But we wanted to talk a little bit about, gosh, we talked about everything under the sun. But basically, this is the gist of it. There was heroes and the civilians. You know, you've got 150 plus thousand men, you know, descending in from every direction on a town that was, you know, pushing 3,000. And that's rural as well. You know, everybody was moving in or moving out, you know, to try to get away from all this. And, you know, days before that, some Confederates had come through and, you know, basically the generals laid down, you know, this is what we need. And we said, you know, they said, there's no way we can come up with all that, but we'll open the shops for you and you can, you know, buy whatever you need, you know, as long, please be orderly, whatever. We're going to give you whatever we can. We'll see what we can come up with. And the Confederate soldiers were actually cool enough to pay them. The kicker on that one is, though, they paid them in Confederate money. It was worthless, but they paid them. You know, these
kinda
people
dirty.
they didn't do it. They didn't know.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
okay.
It was
They
they were
didn't do it
being
on purpose.
courteous.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were being that courteous. They didn't have to be. They weren't pillaging it. They paid for it, and then they backed up a little bit, regrouped, and came and killed everybody. You know, and that's just the way the Civil War was. They traded stuff across the fence at night. They fought mostly during the day. And we're so fascinated by it that we're still doing reenactments and studies and episodes and shows and, you know, going and trying to cross ghosts and everything else. So here we go. This is a little ghost story that has to do with a little bit of a time slip and a little bit of how close reenactors and ghosts can almost bleed into each world, pulling the living into the dead's atmosphere and their world and their perception, very much like Kate Morgan in that hotel who pulled that lawyer in to tell him this is what happened to me. So this is another instance of that. Take a look. Go ahead, Donnie.
All right, I'll be back.
Never has more American blood been shed in battle than during the 4 violent years of the Civil War. More than 600,000 men died long before their time, killed by their countrymen before they could marry, build a house, have children. Some people say the old battlefields are haunted by such men in search of another chance at life. If one of these unquiet ghosts were looking to make use of a sympathetic soul, A living soul, that is. It just might be Tim Fredrickson, a Civil War reenactor. There are thousands of men like Tim. The Civil War is their passion. They wear the old uniforms, carry real weapons, and march onto blood-stained battlefields into the roar of cannons. Sometimes they can forget where the dead soldiers leave off and where they themselves begin.
I've been in reenacting living history for almost 17 years now. I can't explain the connection, but every time I come out here, they're with me. They're out here on the field.
Who might more easily cross a line of reality than a man who's already crossed a line of belief? One night, as Tim lay sleeping in his bed, the spirit of the Civil War came into his life as it never had before.
I wake up and I hear somebody saying, "Sir, sir, you've got to get up right now." Just a few months later, I physically felt a hand grab my shoulder and shake me like somebody was right there shaking me. And I know I jumped. I must have jumped a foot because, I mean, there's somebody in my house. I'm sitting bolt upright in the bed, and there's not a soul there. There's nobody in the room whatsoever. But I physically felt that hand on my shoulder.
300 miles away in Gettysburg, Tim's good buddy Mike Flood was also sleeping. And at the very same moment, something tapped him on the shoulder, too.
Someone was tapping on my shoulder. Looked up and I didn't see anybody. Shortly after that, I heard some booming. I thought something was exploding in town. I looked out there, but nobody else seemed to be concerned with it. I had this feeling that somebody was in the room. When I looked up, there was like soldiers standing at the end of my bed. And I could tell they were wearing uniforms. I could see the color of the pants, light blue trousers and the darker blue jackets. And one guy started speaking to me, said he was a sergeant with the 116th Pennsylvania. He said, "Well, we want to talk to you on the battlefield." I said, I'm not going out there. I said, I'm staying in my room. And the other soldier said, "Well, we're going to see you later." And with that, they turned and left. And I couldn't sleep the rest of the night.
When Tim joined Mike in Gettysburg the next day for a trip to the battlefield, the two friends realized what an amazing coincidence had taken place. After years of merely reenacting the Civil War, it now seemed that Tim and Mike were being invited to join their ghostly comrades. They talked about it over dinner. Tim wanted to go out to the battlefield, but Mike was still too shook up by what had happened the night before.
I mean, I could see in his eyes that they were just, he had no intentions of, even thinking about going out there after dark.
Mike really wanted to go back to his hotel room where it was safe. But the next thing he knew, he was being pulled by a force that he could not resist.
I got this really strange image that I was seeing these dead soldiers on the battlefield. Both Union and Confederate soldiers lying dead in the field.
He just immediately says, we've got to pay the check and go right now. We have to leave right now.
Tim Fredrickson and Michael Flood walked out of an ordinary restaurant in a small Pennsylvania town onto the hallowed battlefield of Gettysburg and into another dimension.
I really could almost feel like there was a charge of electricity in the air.
I knew that there was more than just Tim and I at the site. I looked to my left and I looked to my right, and I got this really strange sensation that people were walking by me.
Before I can say a word, he doesn't even look at me, and the words out of his mouth are, "Tim, do you see them? Do you see them?"
I know what I was looking at, but I wasn't sure if anybody else was seeing this.
I'm seeing something that I cannot fathom myself. We are having over 150 men literally appear in front of our eyes, facing us. We're looking at them, and they're staring right through us.
Like a spike, the gaze of the ghost soldiers pinned Mike to the ground.
I wanted to run, but I couldn't.
I said, "Mike, we've got to go. Mike, it is time to leave."
Then, suddenly, Mike snapped out of it.
I finally got the courage or ability to move my feet and walk, and we got back to the car, and I peered over my shoulder just a couple times, and it was still the They were still standing there, wherever they were. And we got in the car and we left. Like, fast.
But this was an encounter they couldn't just walk away from. They needed to know why them. What did it mean?
The majority of these young men died far before their times. And on a hallowed ground like Gettysburg, you're talking like 50,000 men in 3 days.
But maybe they relate to us as doing reenactments and try to live like a real Civil War soldier.
I feel that they may have felt that I was a conduit. I was that conduit that they could use, if you will, to communicate with the other world, to communicate with our world.
But what if communicating with another world becomes a journey of no return? For Tim, the allure of the dead soldier's world is strong. But so is his fear.
I want to reach out to them. But I don't know if I reach out to them and make physical contact with them, what will happen. I don't know if I went over to the other side. Could I even get back?
Mike and Tim were able to keep their feet in our world. This time.
Well, what do you think, Donny Cho?
That was pretty intense. They actually showed up in his room? Damn. Yeah, I would have been, I don't know how I would have responded if like actual like soldiers from another time period just came and showed up in my room like that. Man, that must, man. Anyway. Oh, Cisco, you're muted. Yeah, you're muted.
Ah, you didn't miss anything.
Okay.
That's something though, right? You know, that's pretty deep. That was a deep experience. That was also in Gettysburg. That happened in Gettysburg. So many things like that. And I'm wondering, you know, that, like we said, the reenactment, of course, is a trigger. So many different people use so many things from music. I mean, I've used that. You know, you could say that I did that at the wheat field when, you know, I sang. I can remember standing in the center of the wheat field, which is an experience in itself. I don't know how to explain it if you've not done it. But it's in the book, and I tried my best to explain how it felt and what was going on and where I was and how it changed. But I can remember feeling the energy and the erratic nature of it. And of course, it's so many feelings at once. And trying to collect that and stop it just for a minute, just to tap the brakes. And something said, sing. And I sang, and I just reached down and I said, what can I sing that would be familiar to them at that time, but be something for both sides? And Amazing Grace comes to my head because of the common religions, the common spirituality, the common thought patterns that were going on at the time, you know, and the peacefulness of the chords in that song, the notes, and the way it flows, the energy of it, the frequency. And I did that, and that's when I took those pictures. And I asked permission first. I didn't just jump in because, you know, we've talked about it before, Native Americans, indigenous people, they really didn't like this whole picture thing because they thought it took a piece of their soul, or you lost. Actually, that's not what they said. I think they said that they lost a piece of themselves, but I wonder if they weren't talking not so much it taking the physical soul out of the body, but that you cheapened yourself and your character by giving something that private away. Because if you have to think like they would think and what was important to them, which is also why when people came over and said, we want what's yellow and it comes out of the ground and it's in abundance and, you know, it's valuable, and Native Americans, oh, corn feeds people and it grows out of the ground. No, they're thinking gold. So it's always that kind of thing. You got to think differently. I think it was more like you cheapen yourself. You know, when Crazy Horse started resorting to selling pictures and signing autographs. Everybody looked at me as, you're selling yourself out. You're, much like we'd say somebody was a sellout now, or, a star.
Damn, Crazy Horse was really doing that?
Yeah.
Damn, he must have been a jaded man by then.
Well, he was. I mean, they were trying to break Native Americans the way they break horses. Their spirit. They were trying to destroy a spirit, not just a wipe out a race, but to break the spirit first. And I mean, gosh, you throw your family into a ground where you can't grow anything. There's no food. There's no animals. There's no. Your life is, and out into Canada where it's cold in Canada, right? It was, and where they were was barren. If you look at, where's every reservation you know of? It's barren, useless, what they thought would be useless land. It's horrible, but it's happened to every culture. I mean, something similar, many people have been forced away. I mean, we do it to animals now. There was a bear. Did I tell you guys about the bear a couple weeks ago? It's so funny. It's sad because these animals get pushed out, and I've joked before and said, look, I'm on the animal side. We took away, the forest. They didn't leave the forest left them, right? Or the woods or whatever. And there was a bear out there, and it was so funny because everybody in the shop, we found out about it, and everybody was going nuts. And it just happened to be where I knew some of the people on the force. And our driver went out and took a video of it, come back and shows everybody at the shop. We go, oh my God, we hope it doesn't shoot the bear. And I text, the family member that I know, and they texted that person and said, Cisco knows about the bear. Don't shoot it. They pushed it off more toward the Pine Barrens. But, I'm for the animals, but, it's everybody gets pushed out and moved. Progress is supposed to be good for us, right, Donny? Progress.
Yeah, it does. They say the wheels of history keep grinding on.
I know we've run late overtime, but you went through all the trouble to read a chapter in my book about Gettysburg, and I know you had some questions. Did you want to still talk about that, or do you want to save it for another night? What are you feeling?
I could talk about that. Yeah, we could talk about that.
All right, well, hit me up. What'd you want? Where'd you want to go? He's talking about this book right here.
Yeah.
It's the only one I actually have in print right now. We are all children in the wilderness of the afterlife. And in that little vid I did, what I was reading about Gettysburg, that's from the chapter in there, Who Could Love Me, it's called. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, it's all you.
I'll let you decide, Cisco. Did you want to talk about the first part of the story where you're at the cemetery?
Sure,
or did you want to talk about, because...
Go ahead, ask.
For those of you who didn't read it, I'll just quickly sum up. Cisco was planning a trip to Gettysburg with her sons, and they were going to go on a ghost tour. The problem was she had a really hard time getting to go to the trip, so there were a lot of these synchronicities that took place, right? That incident. Can you tell the story about? Actually, I don't know. It's up to you, but. Remember the story where you're at the drugstore and you're waiting online?
Oh, yeah. That was basically, to move through that one quickly, lots of things were happening. Every time we thought, no, we'll postpone it, we'll go another time, something would happen to force us to go, to push us to go. And you're welcome here anytime, Chisholm. Is it Sluter or Slouter? How do you pronounce that?
Sluter.
Sluter?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you're welcome here anytime. And eventually I mispronounce my name.
And pretty soon I'm going to be talking about him because eventually we'll get to the
talk about the Shantley Hotel. Yeah, we kind of do this sometimes, me and Donny, and we get with the chat and we just visit. We're just visiting. Paranormal visit.
We just let it go where it goes.
Yeah, paranormal visit. That's what it's kind of like. Minus the lemonade. We should get some lemonade for next show, Donny.
And sometimes we take some surprisingly fun turns.
Some rocking chairs, like we're sitting on the porch, just visiting.
Yeah.
But anyhow, go ahead, shoot away. What was the question? I
brought up the story about the drugstore.
Oh,
what happened at the drugstore?
Yeah, and every time we'd say that we weren't going to go or we didn't have the money or something like that, we get a coupon. You know, you guys know, I've told this story to you before. So all these things would happen. It would be like, okay, I'm listening. So I'm at the drugstore. I just got off the phone talking to my son, telling him just what I just said. Yeah, mint juleps, Vixen. Thank you. And so I told him, you know, if we had to postpone it, we'll go next time. It's 150th anniversary. I'd love to go now, because if we don't do it now, you know, we might never do it, that kind of thing. But you know, if you can't get off from work, no big deal, you know, because he was like the head line cook at Ruby Tuesdays, he was. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a big deal because it was hard to replace, trust me. So, anyhow, I go in the store, and I'm standing in line. That's back when you could stand in line next to each other, back in the old days. And I'm standing in line, and I got this big-ass purse. I had this big, like the rose, you know, big carpet purse. Carpet bag person, you got, and Edna, you know what I mean. Lindsay, I'm sure you know. And so anyway, I hear this kid scream, and as a mom, I turn into the direction of the kid screaming. And when I turned, this big ass purse knocked over this display of DVDs on the floor at the same time. So it was all at the same time. And when I went back around, I looked at my feet, and I'm thinking I knocked over DVDs, and I looked down, and what's facing me is 3 of the cover to Gettysburg, the movie. And in my head, real fast, I'm thinking, okay, that doesn't mean anything. It's 150th anniversary, you dumbass. So, of course, there's a display of that. It's all that. Sure it is. And I turned the DVDs over that were next to them that had landed face down, and I said, surely these are Gettysburg as well. As I'm picking them up, I'm thinking all this shit, because I'm batshit crazy. And I flip them over, and it's not. One is Weekend at Bernie's and something else I can't remember, but it wasn't Gettysburg, and I'm like, oh shit. Daggum, the spirits flipped over, you're going to Gettysburg. That's how I took it. And I'm like, okay, I'm listening. I mean, it got to be every time, Donnie.
Yeah.
You know, a coupon for the exact amount. It's not just a coupon.
It's like the universe was like pushing you to go to Gettysburg.
The exact fucking amount that we were short for that hotel. You know, just multiple things. It was amazing. We were supposed to go. And I had been pushed for years, and I had been there before. Mm-hmm. This wasn't my first trip there. But it calls me like no other. And it calls me past multiple other battlefields that were almost as horrendous, I'm sure horrendous to the people who fought and died there. Yeah. You know, revolutionary battlefields, you know, up in Jersey, for God's sake. You know what I'm saying? In any direction, including the water, including the ocean. You know, so, but why would it pull me past for that one? Therein lies the question.
Maybe you were a soldier there at one point, and you're like the reincarnated version, and you're just like having to go back to get your
maybe
men.
The soul remembers. I mean, I've got stories. I mean, you know, it's not unheard of.
Yeah. We've
talked about it here on the show many times. The reincarnation, soul recognition, split souls. Like, what if? Is it possible to die, and part of you stays and part of you goes, and if part of you goes, can that part reincarnate and this part of your soul over here still exist simultaneously? It's a good question, you know. And we've had stories that would lean to that possibility. You know, I don't have that answer, but it's a great question.
The next cool part of that story was actually when you went to the cemetery, right? And then you're with the group, and then your sons are like by the gate, and they're just kind of hanging out. And then you actually go inside, and it's the cemetery for the unknown soldier.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like the unknown soldier who died in like the Civil War and World War I and World War II.
Yes.
It was like multiple different wars.
Yes, it was so cool. It was set like a pie.
Yeah.
And in each, you know, pie section, that would be for, you know, like Donny said, I'm going all the way back. You know, I think it was some 1812 and, you know, stuff like that too. And it's just so wild the way it was set up. It was all set up too, where you could walk in between them without walking on them. So they had like almost like a sidewalk done in marble in between each one. It may not have been marble, but it looked like marble. You know, something similar, shiny, you know, with the metal separators and stuff. It was really cool.
Yeah.
And I walked down in the center of that. I wasn't in a group, but I was in a group with just me and my sons. And they were, Donny, you're correct. They separated from me because, like there was Mom. And I was saying, I got something to do over here. And I was walking around. I was checking out all the squirrels. The trees there are so wild. I mean, they're so old and they've got so much character. And the trunks, do all this kind of like Sleepy Hollow-ish kind of feel to it. It's almost like Steve says, almost like Disney made them. They're almost like too real to be real. And that's all of this whole Evergreen Cemetery is like this. It's a surreal experience to walk through there. You walk through quietly and with reverence. It's like you cannot help it. And if you're not walking through like that, it's almost like there's something that's got to be wrong with you. It's truly. So I walk up into the, and I said, I got to stop here. And they went on, and they're looking at a map is what they were doing. Because they had one of us had printed out a map or something. Mm-hmm. And we had timed things we had to go to, like ghost tour here. We're going on an outside ghost tour with Black Cat, and then we're going to go over here, and we get out of that one in time to catch something over here, some little show or event that we're going to go to there for a couple hours, and then we got to go to this thing next. And I didn't know where I was supposed to be, so it was like exciting jumping from one place to another and just doing what as spirit moved you. Obviously they were in control, and they were, at this point we were just all of us. I don't know if you guys have ever been on an investigation like this, but it's so cool when you just let go and paying attention. Everything is on, the electricity is just flowing, and it's almost like your senses are, you're up to 11, okay, and they know it, and you're with people who get it. And you don't have to explain every little move. It's like I'm with people that when I say, okay, now, you guys know what to do. And you don't have to say shit. And they just know what to do. They know to leave you alone and back off. Just watch everything. They watch your six. It's so cool. And they're, with equipment and stuff like that, you're their own thing. Like a good, well-rehearsed team. It doesn't have to speak, whether it's military or otherwise, down to signals. It's great. And so anyway, my sons walk off, and they're looking at the map, and I can see them, and it's a kind of a cool scene, because when you're looking, it's this the brickwork and the gates and all of it. It's just so awesome. And it's October. It's Halloween night, 150th anniversary. Okay, October 31st.
150th.
150th.
Wow.
This is 9 years ago. And the leaves are blowing in the freaking street. And the streets, it's quiet. It's not dead, no pun intended, but it's quiet, And I decide I'm going to walk in the middle of this pie and just be surrounded by my brothers that have fallen and pay some respect. And I walk in the middle of it, and it's one of those things again, like on the wheat field, and it's just buzzing. It's just electricity. It's just buzzing, almost like standing in telephone wires, and you just hear that. I can't explain it, but it's not unpleasant. It's not pleasant, but it's not. It's there, and somehow it's almost like you feel like you're connected to it. And I could feel multiple. There was one there that had, I think, carrying almost like a guilt of, I should have done more. Something like, there's something he did, got some of his men killed kind of thing. And he should have done more, or felt responsibility for a tragedy. And another was there, I felt separate, that was, again, longing for lost comrades and this kind of thing. So I just real quick, wanted to leave a little bit peaceful, and said a couple things, threw some intent out there, and very quickly, unplanned, again, felt what I felt in the wheat field, but I didn't feel to sing at this point. I felt like what I needed to do to calm everything quickly and just give them a chance to take a breath, because it was escalating. probably they were feeling the same type of energy I was. It was being drawn to it. I did the Lord's Prayer. Smoothly, with a cadence, almost like it wasn't me. And I said there, and I felt it. I felt every word of it. And when it was done, I stopped, and it was almost like the leaves blew different. It was weird. I can't explain that whole atmospheric, because it was an atmospheric experience as well as internal and external. It was amazing, but quick. And I said there, I hope that brought you some peace. You're not forgotten. I remember what you did here, and they remember, and you're not forgotten. And it was simple. And I said, I hope that brought you some peace, was the last thing I said again. And I turned and I walked. Now they closed down, and it's becoming dusk, and they're very strict about closing everything down. Nobody's allowed on the battlefield though after, I think it's dusk. And I figured they're getting ready to close, so I'm headed toward the gate, and I can see my sons. Now I'm a big rock collector. I'm a nature girl. I always collect rocks, and they know it. There's many good stories, many funny stories about this. And I had to be sure to tell them, look, we don't take anything from here, not even a rock, because they know the whole story about cursed rocks, and but trust me, they know. And I said, everything here belongs to them. And I see, as I'm walking away, I feel like I'm being followed. Like somebody's coming up on me, and immediately I'm thinking, it feels like, oh God, there guards rushing me out of here, because they do.
Yeah.
And I felt it, something on my shoulder. I turned around, expecting that to be, I'm going, man. You know, I'm headed toward the gate. Those are my sons. I'm out of here. You know, I'm sorry. And because I hung a little long. And at the same time, I'm seeing there's nobody there. But I have a good feeling. I'm not freaked out. I'm a little stunned that it wasn't a guard, but I'm not freaked out. I noticed my son is kicking something with his toe in the fallen leaves. It's October. It's beautiful. And he reaches down and picks something up. And I think it's a rock. Right away, I'm thinking, oh gosh, he's found a rock. Because he looks at his hand and looks up at me and then looks back at his hand. And this is what I see. And immediately I think, oh shoot, I got to make him feel bad that I can't take that, you know, because, you know, what I said. And I'm still kind of reeling from what just happened, and I'm kind of walking funny, almost like you're walking through warm water and these thoughts are going through your head, but you're still aiming towards the exit, you know. And he's walking towards me, and he says, I probably won't get it verbatim, but he says, I'm still kind of buzzing, this is for you. And I look down, and it's a crucifix. A solid silver crucifix with Jesus.
Your son said that to you. Your son said, this is for you. Yeah.
And then he's repeated something staggering along the ways of, like, they said it was for you. And he never talked about it again later. He just, this is for you. And I said, I had asked him, did you get a feeling? What made you look down? This is under the leaves. How'd you know it was there? You know, I don't know. He would kind of be, I don't know. I just kind of got a feeling there was something there, and I kicked it, and I saw it with my feet. I picked it up, and I heard, this is for your mom. Now, I had just done the Lord's Prayer. I had said, I hope it helped you. How did the Spirit know? Is that apporting? Did Jess see it? It was a coincidence? That's the same cross that when I was going to psychic training with one of the best mediums I've ever met in my life, Barbara, we had to do the envelope thing. Did I put this part in the book?
Yes, you did. Yeah, you did. This is a cool
okay.
part of the story, too.
Yeah. And we have to do this guess thing, this, I forget what it's called, psychometry, I think, where you touch something and you guess and you don't know what's in the envelope. But everybody had to bring something in. And I remember I was like, I always forget stuff. It's terrible through school and everything. So anyway, last minute, I always carry this cross with me because I always felt like it was like a great protection. Plus, it's silver, and I went through all my due diligence. I called the museum, lost and found for the grounds, everything else. Did anybody lose a cross? I mean, I didn't want to, I felt like crazy to give this cross back because I didn't know where to drop it off, and you couldn't that night. I was just safekeeping at the time. And then eventually I started to get the feeling, no, this is, if it had been on a gravestone or something, oh my God, I would never in a million, it was outside, like almost on the sidewalk along the road.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, I went through all of the things you could ask me about that. I mean, round and round and round. And eventually I felt like I'm supposed to keep it, and I'm supposed to keep it close,
So.
I put it in the envelope. Nobody sees me do it. I put the cross in the envelope. The medium picks me. She's doing her hand. She says, I feel like I'm supposed to be with you. Sits across from me. Takes the envelope and starts saying this stuff like, I'm getting a man in uniform. And she's throwing these things at me. Go back. It's like World War One, maybe not two, maybe one, going back. You don't know him. And she's throwing stuff like this. She goes, oh, there's another one. And then she got real quiet. And she says, am I crazy? Does this make sense? And I'm like, she's freaking me out, right? And she's saying all these things, and they're coming like machine gun fire. She's all these little tiny things that kind of, I know they link together, but she doesn't. She thinks she's nuts for having these visions. And then she stops. And she's holding it. I remember the way she was holding it. She wasn't holding it like this. She was holding it like this. It was a weird way to hold an envelope, like this in her hands. She's holding it like this on her lap with her palms down. And she just kind of like forced it like with extra into her lap, like almost like putting an exclamation point on a thought she had just had. And she leaned in and she breathed in and she opened her eyes and she looked at me and she said, this was a gift. This was a gift from Spirit. She said, in any way does that make sense to you? And I just threw back in my chair like this, away from her, just to get a full view, not to separate from her, but to get more of her. And I just said, you are so spot on. I can't believe it. It was so amazing. And at the same time, amazed at her abilities and the way she picked up on that, and the confirmation all at once that spirits had crossed over, enjoyed a simple kindness of intent and true respect, and knew somehow that was out there, and alerted my son and spoke to him, according to him, even though he won't talk about it. He said it once. And with my son, whose Native American name is Thinks Twice, is very profound in the things he says, and he says very little, but when he says it, and that's what he said. They said it was for you. I'm like, who's they? We're done. He's got to love his granddaddy in it. It doesn't talk about it, but he knows. So there you go. And I still have it to this day. You want to see it?
You still have it.
Right here in my medicine bag. You see my medicine bag? Yep. Cool thing. There's so many cool things in a medicine bag, and they are really private because they tell you what, in here might be things that scare you, there might be things that you're working on, might be things that your weakness, or might be your strength, it might be a remembrance. There's so many things that are also very personal. But I thought it was very apropos to continually carry. Sometimes I wear it right out front, but most every time. And there it is.
Wow. There it is. That's a pretty cross too.
Yep. And it's, the Lord's Prayer would absolutely go with this. And it's like their little way. At the very most, I allowed myself to think and theorize that the reason it was given to me was just that. It was as plain as day to me. I didn't have to reach for it. And it matched so well, and to have her confirm it just a few years later, and get that it was a gift from Spirit to protect me, because that night I walked out on that field under that witness tree, and that next big thing, it was a huge night. It really was. It was Gettysburg, 150th anniversary. What'd you expect? You know,
Yeah.
it's just, I mean, if you think about it in a paranormal way like that, you think, wow. But you know what? It was so good. It was like the spirits were really paving the way for all this. It had nothing to do with me. I was just listening. I kind of let go after a while. They had to work at it with all their little things, with the throwing DVDs at my feet and sending me coupons and phone calls and emails that I didn't, I mean, it could have just been the phone listening to me, but we all done that where you mentioned, boy, I should get some dog food, and all of a sudden you get an email for dog food from somebody. But I didn't know about a lot of that then, so it had the same effect whether it did or not, because it worked in spirit favor, right? And I truly believe that when you're open like that, your spirit guides get with their spirit guides. I mean, why not? If there are spirits trying to cross them, be their loved ones or their whatever name you want to give them, guardian angels, whatever, if they need a pathway, if they're trying to communicate with this agitated and broken human spirit in ghost form, and they're not listening and they can't get through the barrier, and they're going to look for anything, if they can connect with, hey, look, we got a chick in Jersey that, if we push her hard enough, she's going to go out there and she's going to do the thing. She's going to stand there and be the conduit, because that's all we are. We could be unintentional conduits too.
Yeah.
Right place, right time. How many of us have been in that situation? I know many people like that, and many people who are, almost like instant mediums, where you get a feeling about something and you call your friend and tell them, don't go on that trip, or don't get on that plane, or, double check your husband's, are you sure that's okay? Because there's something going on. Or, I mean, it happens to all of us, but we don't count it because we think it's a coincidence. I think that happens to a lot of us, Donny.
A lot of people, yeah, definitely, for sure. What was the material of the cross, by the way?
Silver.
Yeah.
Was that what
I
you
thought-
asked me? What is it made of? It's silver.
Yeah, it's silver. I think that's kind of interesting that it was silver.
I do, Aunt Edna. I do. Yeah, I do too. But it means it. Believe it or not, it means so much more to me than gold. I know that sounds like a jerk answer, but it's true. Everybody always thinks, nice guys finish last. Maybe we do. I wasn't always a nice guy. I have this end of my life. I gotta fix the first. I gotta do the yin and yang.
Yeah, we all got stuff we gotta take care of.
Yin and yang, man.
Yeah.
We all got it. Yep.
And with the next part of the story that I thought was also very thought-provoking was before you go out to before the climax of that story, you meet up with that Samuel guy, the tour guide.
There will be no climaxing in this story. Just for all you that just raised an eyebrow, I assure you, Donnie's just picking words, okay?
I mean, that's how I see that part.
The finale.
The finale. Okay.
I
how
felt
about the
eyebrows go
showdown? How about the showdown? The final battle. How about that?
The final. Now we got final countdown playing
Just
in my
going the
head.
final boss.
Final
But anyway,
countdown.
remember the part where you talk about meeting the ghost tour group, and then the tour guide Samuel, right? He was a veteran and a former firefighter. He was like a tall guy.
I believe
and he was the guide.
Yeah,
and he was like looking. Yeah,
he was kind of a jaded. The feeling, man. He, not sad. It was just like he didn't want to be here. Oh, geez, I got to be here. I got to go through this again. And these, these people and these kids that come in here with their attitude and their questions, and they're provoking, and they're, I mean, he just had this whole. I don't even know. I can't even find the word to describe it. This whole air about him. And he was just over it. You know, he, especially as a vet. I mean, I knew the minute I saw he was in my sight that he was a vet. I could tell by the way he walked and carried himself. I could tell, there's this movement, and he'd sit down and he was trying to tell emotional stories, about a little girl who got hit by a carriage right outside, and she's often seen there, and funerals. We're sitting in a place that's set up like a mourning studio with a black coffin and a mannequin with a lady with the veil over her head, with the black veil, the whole mourning thing. Oh my gosh, you're in an atmosphere, and there's just these wood benches, and you're in a cellar that was used during the battle. Upstairs was used as a sharpshooter's nest, often referred to as the home of the sniper that accidentally shot and killed Jenny Wade, whose picture you saw in the video I did, the only civilian to die in Gettysburg over all 3 days. Can you imagine? The only one to die. There were others wounded and others involved and things like that, but she was the only one to die. She died supposedly instantly. A bullet came from the Farnsworth Inn. Almost, it caught some air. Because I've stood in the Farnsworth Inn and looked across the Jenny Wade house, and I can't give you the exact distance, but it's a hell of a shot. But they were shooting at everything. And it went through and it shot and killed her as she was standing in her kitchen baking bread for the soldiers. Shot and killed her. And now they run a cute little gift shop and ghost tour and walls that talk. You push the button and the walls tell the story.
Wow.
I remember doing that when I was like 10, and I thought it was morbid then. I don't know. It's just something about constantly calling up, these poor people that, I guess you could look at it either way. I mean, I'm sure there's some that just get sick of it, maybe some that can ignore it and think it's hysterical, some that just are horrified by it. I mean, I'm talking about the dead right now, like, think again, I bring up Lizzie Borden house, or the Vasilla Axe murder house, or Amityville, for God's sake, or the McDonald. I mean, just think about it, and these people are constant, and it's I don't know. You know how I feel about that shit.
Yeah.
It seems wrong to me. And
but then you come
we
across,
know they can be called back. We know that.
Yeah.
We've seen it.
Remember some of the stories Samuel was telling you about some of the disrespectful guests and what happened to them, like that one guy who got punched?
He was saying he was really leaning in more towards, if you could look at Samuel is sitting next to the coffin, to the right of him, his right. To his right is this coffin draped. You have to imagine the atmosphere. Draped in a gorgeous Italian black lace doily, whatever you call it. Gorgeous, by the way. Above it, a tree, a very old tree. I believe it had spider webs on it, with a huge vulture in it. A stuffed vulture, not a real one, but just a resin or fake stuff. But, turkey vulture. These things are hideously ugly.
Yeah.
Next to that is the mannequin, I believe, that is dressed in full mourning garb with the black lace. And I'm a sucker for black lace, so I'm right at home. But I do think it's a little okay. But they have to give the idea that this is how the funerals were held, And, of course, morbid. So he's telling the stories, and he says, he's leaning in, and he tried the little girl one, which obviously he's very emotional of. I believe he'd seen her, at least heard her, got response from her. He's got a bag in his hand. There's multiple bags, burlap, I believe, at his feet that have little equipment in that you get for this. So he's also describing the equipment. In it is a small EMF meter, a push and record, rewind, record, little recorder, and a pair of dowsing rods, I think a flashlight, I might be wrong, a thermometer. I mean, it was some jamming gear for, first time people out, that whatever. And there were some there. There was a doctor and her nurse, head nurse. I know this because they were chit-chatting the whole time. And tittering and tattering and just giggling and having a good old time in Prada. And it was just wonderful to see. And and it was fun to see that approach towards it. They were interested, but they weren't going to go in too deep. You know what I mean? So they were kind of like the girls at the pool didn't want to get their hair wet and sat at the shallow end of the pool. But it was fun to see. Then next to them, on the other side of the room, in the front benches, was a cute family, mom and dad and a son about 11, 12 years old, excited as all get out. If he had been a dog, his tail would have been wagging off his body. He was thrilled, and he was going a mile a minute and explaining all the equipment and leaning into everything that the guide was saying and explaining everything to his parents. He was in heaven, and they were paying full attention to him, and it was wonderful else to see. And here's my boys. Leaning, the bad kids at the back of the bus. Sweetest people in the room, guarantee it. But they look, they're AC/DC, probably like a Boondock Saints shirt, just, big old work boots because they work. They're blue collar. But they were looking rough, and mom was dragging them to this shit. But they were in it. They just couldn't show they were in it. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They had to be cool. And it had to be cool to sit on the other side of this place away from me.
Yeah.
To sit too close to your mother. It's fun. It's fun.
I mean, I'm kind of the same way. I get it.
But I'm giving you, I describe all that. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. And, you get it.
Yeah.
It's like when two guys sit at the theater, there's always a couple seats in between, but girls sit together and kind of, this is crazy. I hope that never changes. I hope that it's just, it's human beings. So I explain all that because this is what, dude is seeing. I think I called him Joe in the book. Either way, none of that's his real name. It's just, out of respect, I didn't get his permission, so I didn't use his real name. But anyway, he's leaning in. You can see where he's beading in on. And he's looking at my boys, and he's looking at the young boy, because he's sensing for trouble. Where's the trouble going to come from? Trouble's coming. No doubt trouble's coming, It's just, where is it? What direction is it coming from? Because it always is. Because I have to go through this all the time. And again, I'm getting this feeling. I'm leaning in. And he starts saying about, there'll be no provoking. And I'm listening. We're listening to this whole spiel. And I'm digging what he's putting down. And he says, there was a guy here that got punched in the stomach not 2 nights ago. And last night a woman got slapped across the face. And there'll be none of that. And, these were soldiers. And he starts getting into a little bit of, and you can hear in his voice, it meant something to him. And that's when I leaned in. Is this what you're going for, Donny? And I said, look, Joe, I'm speaking up. I said, look, those are my sons. Because he was looking right at them like, they're going to come out. They're too, I can't peg them, They look like they're trouble, but they're, they're listening, and they weren't doing anything. They were just drawn that way.
Well, I was thinking of a cool story that he told where a guy was like trying to sing Dixie on the wrong side, and he was like, trying to be disrespectful.
Yeah.
And then I guess he got punched in the stomach.
Yeah.
I think that's what happened to him.
Yeah. That's what
And
he
also,
said. Like 2 nights before that, a guy got punched in the stomach,
Yeah.
and it was for that. You're correct. And then the woman got slapped. I don't recall that he ever said why she got slapped, but he was saying disrespectful. And then he was trying to explain again his respect and reverence for the people that fought there and some of the places that we were actually going. And at the same time, it was raining. So he's getting up and looking out. We're in a basement. This basement had been used for a hospital. Every basement there had been used for a hospital. A living room, floor, kitchen, bedroom. Imagine 180,000 men converging on this town of barely 3,000. I think it was like 2,500, somewhere around in there. But still, they're everywhere. And he gets up and walks to the cellar door, and it's literally one of those where you go up the steps and there's like 2 metal doors, but they're wooden. and he opens up one of them, and he looks out, and he's talking about raining. And that's when I'm having this private conversation with my spirit guide saying, okay, if this is it, I don't know where you guys want me to be. I felt like they wanted me in the where the snipers were, sniper nest upstairs because they can take you on this tour up in the attic. This is the Farnsworth. I don't think I mentioned that in the book, but well, there it is. It's Farnsworth. I didn't know if we were going upstairs, which is where my oldest son wanted to go because he was interested in trying to contact the sniper that was there, because the sniper seems to haunt there and bemoaning about shooting Jenny Wade. That sounds to me, I'd have to hear that from his mouth. Mm-hmm. I think that's almost like a projected story. That's what I get when I hear that. I can't speak on it. I do believe that somebody up there did possibly shoot from there and shoot her. But this one guy seems to be getting blamed for it, and I don't know why. I can't peg that. But anyway, that's where he wanted to go. And then you can stay in the basement and do stuff, and then you can go through. And it's also like a restaurant. So there's that. And so we wanted to go outside on the outside tour, most of us, and it was raining. So I was saying, okay, you guys, you have to decide where we're going here. I don't know where I'm going. I'm saying this all in my head. I said, if you want us to go on outside on this tour, you're going to have to make it stop raining. I said it like a joke. It stopped raining. And we went on our tour. And do you want me to tell the part about going out the door? What I said to
sure.
When I tugged on his sleeve?
Yeah.
So I know that I have to be alone for at least a few minutes without people that don't understand what's going on away from me. So I got a feeling as we're going out, I kind of lagged back. And I had told Joe when he was mentioning about no provoking, I said, listen, Joe, don't worry about us. Those are my sons. I'm a vet. And I said, we're here with reverence. We're here as, more for the history than anything else. And I said, we understand what's going on here, and there'll be no trouble from us tonight. I can assure you that. And they sat up and kind of leaned forward, like almost like, I remember seeing, because I'm looking over them. And the reason I was avoiding their gaze is because I'm figuring they're melting in their seats right now. But they didn't. They sat up and kind of like, it's kind of a cool way, kind of put an exclamation point on everything I just said without being too Gucci about it, I love boys. I love boys, man. So anyway, so Joe was kind of like, okay, and he kind of gave it back to me. He was like, kind of, okay, so it's like we're all boys now. That's cool, we're all brothers. There's an understanding. So I felt like I could say what I'm about to say. We're going out the door after everybody's rounded up, their bags are handed out, and everybody's looking at their equipment. And I'm like, just give me the dowsing rods. You guys take the rest. That's all I need, a little backup. And I kind of hung to the back, and he's helping everybody up the stairs. Don't slip. Oh, girl, we're going to wait for me here on the sidewalk, giving all these instructions. And I waited. And as we were going out, I said, hey, Joe. I said, do you think, I said, I'm kind of here to do a little something. I said, nothing bad, everything I had respect. I said, do you think that, if I feel anything out here, I could tell you, and you could just move everybody on, just, a couple feet, 10, 15 feet will be fine. And give me a second of just peace and quiet, And he says, well, he's looking down at me. He's so big and so tall. He had to be 6'4". He's as tall as Mario, 6'4", 6'5". Dressed as a Confederate sergeant, by the way. I've left that part out. That's the best part. And a big old hat, the gray hat. And he kind of looked down at me and goes, oh, sure, you're good people. I could do that. I could do that. He said, what are you going to do? He gets excited. A little excitement comes to his face. And he says, what are you going to do? Try to get an EVP or something? I said, no, Joe, I'm going to cross him. And he just stopped. And his whole face changed. He got light in his face, and he kind of got just barely the hint of a smile. And he looked at me and he said, I think I could do that. And up we went. And we went onto the tour. It was cool. It was cool to see his face change like that. It was nice.
Did you want to go into when you crossed them, or
We can. Did you have any
I think
questions about it? It's
um,
it's listed best in the book, and I'm not trying to sell books. I'm just trying to say that it's hard to get verbatim what went on there, because during certain times I heard absolutely nothing but what was going on in my head and what was
mhm.
going on in front of me. I'm like, everything is on, and it's not so much like a trance as it's more like a connection. And you're trying to read like a parable, you're trying to read multiple levels of information coming in at one time, and
Hmm.
not only from different energies in front of you, but also how you're picking it up, and then trying to affirm that by looking down at the equipment that's at my feet. And there's in front of me, at my feet was an EMF meter and a flashlight. And the flashlight was only there because I wasn't messing with the flashlight. You know how you do a flashlight? You just lay it down. It's at my feet. I'm not touching it. I had the dowsing rods because I understood them. I didn't have to work any gizmos or gadgets. But when I first started talking to him, I had the EMF meter in my hand and the dowsing rods in my pocket. And we were walking through the field. And there was a movie that was, did you tell me that, Donny? The movie that was filmed there by that high school and the football field? I think it was filmed at Varsity Blues or something was filmed there.
Oh, I think I might have heard that before too. Yeah.
It's got a couple of,
Yeah.
movies in its back pocket, but there's a high school down there now, and there's a big field, and so everything in Gettysburg is rolling fields and trees, and if it has historical significance of the part of where it's protected by the park, it's still there the way it looked. And then next to it, a modern building. It's crazy. Like most historic places.
Yeah.
So we're walking, and I have no idea where we are. Because it's at night now. We're on a tour. Most tours don't get to go on any part of the battlefield, but the whole town's a battlefield. So think about that. There are places, and this field is one of them. And there's a witness tree there. You can still go to there to this day and see it. It was there during the battle. It was there before, and it's there now. And we're walking through this field, and I feel it. I get hit with it. And the whole place is like this, but this is more of it. More of it. And I get slowed down, and I keep closing and opening my eyes, and everybody's a little further off. But Joe's kind of there. It's just, they're all in the general vicinity. And we're right there in this tree. And I can feel this energy, and I look up, and I just, bam, it just hits me. And I'm like, God, they're in the tree, And I'm like, of course they are. And this is the crap that goes through my head during something like this. I'm like, telling myself, of course they are. This tree is the only thing here that looks exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
Of course they'd sit in the tree. Because my mind is trying to figure, I've got all these guys in the tree, and I can see them in flashes. I can see some of them. I can see legs dangling off of branches. I can see something that looks like muskets across laps or in a hand. I could briefly get the one leg up on the branch leaning against the trunk with the elbow on the knee. Do you see? You get what I'm saying?
So what are you
just
doing?
Chill. And he was eating something like an apple. He was carving something with a knife and eating it. It had to be like an apple. But he was that chill up in the tree. A ghost. These are the visuals, flashes I'm getting. Not a solid, I see them all and they're all looking at me like in a movie. Flashes. Weird, right?
So what are you doing physically at this time?
Walking. With
You're
an
walking?
EMF meter, yeah. And you move the EMF meter, and it's going up a little bit, it's changing, and you got to figure, okay, where's the wires, where's this, what's under the ground, I don't know, I'm just walking
because
with
the part that I guess I got confused with in that part of the book was when you described a lot of like what you were sensing and experiencing, but I didn't know what you were like physically actively doing. I didn't know you were walking with the
I
equipment.
walked until I got to that tree, felt what I just said, looked up brief moments, and everything I just described happened like this. Pow, 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 pow.
Oh,
And then
wow.
I have to look around. Okay, I've got the dead. They're here. And multiple feelings with that. I mean, this is multiple different energies, okay? And then I've got the living, right? And then you're in this field, this dark, you don't know what you're doing. So I look and I see Joe. And I said, hey, Joe. I tap him on the, this is me.
Yeah.
I tap him on the sleeve and I say, hey, Joe, go ahead. And he gets excited like a little kid, this big 6'5" little kid dressed as a Confederate sergeant. And he says, oh, he goes, he's, oh, like I surprised him. He's looking down at me. And I said, hey, Joe, let's go. You know, this is the time. And he kind of gets it. You can see him recall what we had said, and he goes, okay, and he takes every, come on people, let's go, you know, he does this, and the doctor, you know, the doctor and her head nurse in Prada go that way, and the young boy and the, you know, the doctor and the mom and dad, they're having, and he's describing away. It's just so sweet. And I remember seeing that scene and smiling because I just thought it was so cool, this young kid. You know, it's a dream. I'd kill at 11 to be able to have done that with my, you know, parental people. So anyway, he says, oh, he's like, this, is she going to do a little something? And I said, you know, and he goes, oh, and I said, Joe, the tree. And I'm just, I can't really, you know, and I'm like, the tree. And he says, oh, yeah. And he gets excited. That's a Whitney. He goes right in. He goes right into guide mode, you know. And he said, that's a witness tree. She was here. And he starts telling, you know, the blood seeped into the ground and it's part of the tree now. And he gets that far. And I'm like, and I said, yep, I know. It was a witness tree. It was here. And, you know, he said, oh, yeah. And he's like, almost like the brakes were too much and he couldn't completely stop. And I said, you know, no, Joe, I said, they're in the tree. I said, go. And then he got serious. He's like, okay. And he walks off. And I was like amazed by the respect. I was amazed at the switch I saw this living human being doing. But I wasn't done seeing a change in human beings that had been living and had been living 150 years in whatever they were living in their minds and as a collective. It's a crazy thing to imagine. Go ahead, Donny.
No, I mean, keep going. And then what happened?
Well,
so he left. He understands what's going on, right?
Yeah, he chilled out, and I'm looking at my sons, and they're trying to get some equipment to work. The equipment, of course, is going dead. There's so much energy here, and they know this, but they're trying to see if it's that or if it's, you know, batteries are completely drained. You know, I mean, their batteries are draining on their phone. The only time my son could get a picture towards the end, he knew what was going down. They knew it was going down. When something like this happens, they'll put prayer and protection and everything else and on themselves. We've done this. We did it before. They know what they're doing. They'll do it on me. They'll try to hold back. Let me tell you something. Those two have stuff they haven't even tapped into yet. We all know young people that are, their consciousness is high and they understand, but they're still skidding with the, you know, everybody is, you know, but their stuff is, like I say all the time, it goes up to 11. So they're putting that, which I think that as a collective, again, we've talked about it before, gave so much more. And if you don't think the dead doesn't see this going on, they know right away. Because think about how they are, hour after hour. People coming through, they're doing what Joe and Donny was saying, right? Yeah, PTSD. Oh, it does in your little town? Oh, I thought she was talking about the soldiers having PTSD. But yeah, all of that. The fireworks. Yeah. They're going off behind me like crazy. Good. You know, it's good to hear people celebrating. Hope people aren't assholes about it and at least are safe and nobody gets hurt. But by God, blow those son of bitches up. Keep those fireworks and those big fat candles burning. You know, it's good to hear people celebrating. And not being.
Hey, fireworks are all good as long as they go vertical and not horizontal.
Make the bacon, have the hamburgers, swim with the kids, you know, tell them what they're celebrating, explain it to the kids what you're celebrating. It is about tea, but it's more about tea. It's about taxation without representation. It's about what me and Donny are talking about, what we're having a visit about tonight about Gettysburg. It's about every single one of those soldiers, no matter what color they were wearing. They were fighting for the rats, you know. That's kind of a famous quote from Gettysburg when a young Union soldier went around and asked these Southern guys why they would fight for all the reasons he thought they were fighting for.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't have a dog in any of that. I don't have a dog in any of those races. I'm fighting for my rights.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think we all are. So there you go. You know,
also,
long may she wave. Go ahead.
Also, Britain like sucked back then too, so they were just like F you.
You know, we had people out of place for things that they had done to other people.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, again, it's growing pains. It's progress.
At least that was in their mind. That's what they were thinking,
it basically
right?
comes down to everybody wanted the rights. The Native Americans wanted them. The Chinese that came here and helped build the trains wanted them. The immigrants wanted them. The Puritans wanted them. The Quakers wanted them. If we just learn how we could be ourselves and celebrate our differences, as long as they're not bothering anybody. You know what I mean? I mean, if your thing in your group wants to, you know, climb tall buildings to throw coconuts at people, that's not cool. You know, but it sounds crazy, but most shit does. Mm-hmm. You know, the crazy stuff that we've killed each other over for, I mean, how far back, Donny? You could do Romans, you could do all kinds of, in every culture.
It goes far back as humans.
Yeah. My love is stronger than your love. My God is greater than yours. So I'm going to kill you for it.
It goes back to caveman times.
I can understand, you know, you come over here in my house and you know, you're trying to hurt my family. You made your choice. I'm talking about wars over stupid things. And it doesn't seem stupid to the people fighting it. But if you can notice it before it happens, you know, maybe you can go, hey, yo, I've seen this before. Hold on. Let's do something different this time. Yeah. You know, it's almost like that speech that Patriot gives, Mel Gibson's character in Patriot, where he says, I've seen war, listen to me, this is going to be in your front and backyards. People you love will be involved in this. You do not want this. And that's where, you know, cooler heads should prevail. And very much like Jordan P. Why am I saying his name wrong?
Jordan Peterson?
Yeah, but isn't there an initial in there that throws me off every time? But you know what I'm talking about.
I think you're talking about Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, he's brilliant. And, you know, it's like he said, you should be a fucking monster, but learn to control it. Learn what dragons you need to slay and slay them. You know, if it's like he said, if it's an interview but you need the job, you know, if it's you're doing the job but it's filling your needs, but you know you could do more and you could do better, do the job for now. Do what you need to do and use it as a milestone to cross that mighty river and keep going. Everything is temporary, you know. But when death is well, it's not permanent. But it does kind of end your appearance here on this stage for, you know, unless you want to come back as a ghost, as we were talking about, you know. I mean, look at all of the experiences. We could sit here all night long and tell ghost stories on Gettysburg and people bumping into things and stuff being moved. And, you know, I've had Mark Nesbitt on. There's just no better authority on ghosts and his, you know, the history with his background and what he's doing now, working with one of the foremost forensic psychologists, you know, Catherine Ramsland. You know, I mean, we've pulled all the stuff out. We've showed, I mean, there's DNA in this fluid that he's found on the floors there. You know, he's been with, he was the guy I was mentioning about that did the experiment. Like, the ghosts really weren't, they were listening, but they couldn't get a full connection. And he went and got a pastor, and they both dressed as in that ghost uniform and went up there like part of his squad. And he listened, and he followed, and he calmed, and he listened to the words, and they got his attention. And once they got his attention, they didn't let go, and they crossed him after 100 and something years. And that's what happened at Gettysburg on the battlefield. Halloween night, 150th anniversary, 9 years ago. And they stood in front of me and they cooperated. They knew what they were doing, Donnie. It was so quick. It was like this. The minute I connected with them, whoever it was that was moving the equipment I had, and it wasn't a thermometer. The thermometer wasn't working, and I know my sons had one, but everybody got a bag, so there's 3 of everything, and they were all over the place, the equipment. But I just concentrated on the dowsing rods, because if I got a feeling, I would confirm it with them. And I just reached out and I said, you know, if anybody here would wish to communicate with me, and I mean, I started like, I told them I was a vet, even though I didn't look like it. I said, read my intent. The whole thing was telepathic. I gave them permission to read my intent, and they looked inside, and they knew I was telling the truth. I felt that with the guy who was standing in front of me. The other ones were bitching and complaining. Why are you listening to her? Why these people, they come in here and they ask questions, and they come and they go. I mean, just all kinds of stuff at the same time, but I focused on that guy because he was listening. And that's when I asked to speak to the highest ranking person there. And he shifted. He didn't leave. He shifted, and another walked up, and they both listened. And then a third one would listen and calm down. And then you could feel it, and a fourth and a fifth. I think we had 7 or 8. And the one picture that I said my son couldn't get any of his equipment to work, neither one, pulled out his phone and wanted to get a picture, because I was just standing there, this leather jacket with the dowsing rods, and as soon as I said, can you give me a yes? They crossed and uncrossed, and I said, okay, you know what you're doing. The EMF meter went up and went down, and that's when I set it at my feet and concentrated on the dowsing rods, and I stuck with them, but I could see the light going up and down. And without me asking them, when it was a yes, the dowsing rods would cross and uncross, and the EMF meter would go up and go back down again. Without me telling them to do so, they just knew what they were doing every hour on the hour. For how many years? And they were ready. He knew we're going to do something, and they were. It was the speediest thing. I can't explain it. Yep. And when he asked permission to take that picture, Donnie, there was 7 dots in front of me, right above the grass. 7 little light dots.
Do you still have that picture?
I do. I think Zoriah has
you're
a
gonna
copy.
you're gonna have to find that picture. And
It was on it again, like I said, an old phone. But I have some of them from Gettysburg. I've shown them here before, the pink mist, and you know, it's basically me standing in the dark with dowsing rods in the middle of a dark field, and there's like, it almost looks like if you took a flash picture, the light that would reflect back off the dew on the grass. But they weren't using a flash. So it's pretty trippy, right? I know. And that whole night was very trippy. But I believe we had a back and forth. The whole thing went on like that. The atmosphere changed. In and out, a lot of times I had my eyes closed, just going full on feeling. And I'd open my eyes and things around me would have changed with the living. Like my son would be standing closer and he was trying to do something with the thermometer. He later on told me that it had dropped between 20 and 25 degrees right in front of me during this. He didn't tell me during, he told me after the after this was.
oh, you had a like thermal camera on you?
He had a thermal.
Yeah.
A laser, I forget what they're called. See, I'm so with the equipment. But it's a thing that you can laser point, and it tells you the temperature of the air. You've seen it probably in paranormal stuff. Is there a my paranormal investigators out there, is there another name for that other than thermometer? It's just a laser thermometer, right?
Yeah, I think that would be a
that's what
laser
they had.
thermometer. Yeah.
So they got that to work, and like I'd open my eyes, I'd see him standing there, and he'd look up and smile, and I'd just keep doing what I was doing. They know not to talk, because if you're getting EVPs or somebody recording, you're talking over it. I'm talking as little as I can, here. And I mean, I did feel like one of the humps we had to get over was the fact that I apologized for wearing pants. I remember absolutely saying that. And I could feel it lighten up a little bit, but I could also feel like some understanding too. And you could literally feel the different personalities and how, and even when the personalities changed, almost like when you look on somebody's face and they're not saying anything, but their face changes and you know their thoughts changed, you know, from happy to sad, or, you know, inquisitive to surprised, or whatever it may be. It felt like that. A feeling changed like that. It's crazy, right? I know. But they listened, and I had to get them. The reason the chapter is called Who Could Love Me is I had all of them listening, and I had this one energy that was almost felt like it was doing a figure eight, walking behind them and talking to itself, which is, I didn't, you know, I heard it in my head, not, you know, and you could feel it. You could feel something moving here. You could just, it was wild. And I focused on him for a second because I'm like, hold that thought. And I jump over here for a second and focused on him because I said, you know, I could almost feel him saying, you know, she's lying to us. She's, you know, again, these people. And he's talking about how people talk. Like, you can't even understand, you know, like he's like, you can't even understand what they say, or they speak, I forget the word I was getting this sharp word, like disrespectful, but you know, a word that they would use back then I didn't quite get, but I got the feeling, because they did use different, you know. And I focused on him and I was like, hey, you know, in my mind, it's like, you over there in the back of the room. But that's kind of what I was doing. I was like, you know, can you come over here and listen, please? Like everybody else is over here. I'm doing it in the nicest way possible, though, I promise you. But I'm like, you should listen with this group because, you know, we're trying to help you guys through this. I don't want to leave you stuck here. You know, talk to me. And why should, you know, I talk to you? You just lie. And I'm like, look, man, look, just stop a minute and feel this. Feel this. And we started talking about love. I'm trying to get everybody to remember what love is. This is the hardest thing. They remember war and people exploding in front of them and losing buddies and brothers and home and never seeing their family again. And some don't know where they are, and some didn't know they were dead. And all of this is happening at once. All of this is happening at once. And this one guy, such a powerful draw. And I'm like, man, I'm here to help you. Read my intent and know that I am telling you the truth. And I'm trying to get them to remember love. And he says, I said, do you remember, you know, what it's like to give a hug? I'm trying, all the things that give, if you can remember it, you get a feeling with the memory. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You get a feeling with the memory. You feel that memory.
Yep.
You know, almost like saying apple pie baking. You can almost smell it as it goes by.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm trying to get him to do that, much like I did with a little girl at Hoover House with the sunshine. You know, but it wasn't the way to go with this guy. This guy was in a battle. I have no idea what they were doing. They were beating each other together, you know, up with whatever they get their hands on at this point on this field. It was a horrible, you know, they're all horrible. Hand.
By the way, were you able to tell which side they were on?
Nope.
No,
I got
you couldn't
zero
tell?
on that. Absolute zero. It was like they weren't putting it forth. They weren't putting out anything like she's a Yankee. I'm not getting none of it.
Nothing,
like
no visions of uniforms?
Past all of that. It was a trip. It was like meeting somebody, like we've all met that person you feel like you've known. That's what it felt like. They were listening. I mean, when I walked under the witness tree, it was almost like their energy reached out and grabbed me, because I just stopped and looked up. I can't explain it. It's crazy.
That must have been one hell of a day for you, because all of that stuff happened in one day. By the end of that day, you must have been like, what the heck did I just go through?
We knew we were in for something, but what? No clue. No clue. And it's all so much better in the book, I promise you, because when I was writing the book, I almost kind of went back there, and I tried to remember every feeling and where everybody was. And one of the coolest thing during this, and it happened, like I remember physically, it happened like twice, where I would open my eyes and somebody, like I told you, the living would shift around me, and Joe was standing there, and in the full Confederate uniform. It's startling because I'm thinking one of them's appearing in front of me and materializing in front of me when I open my eyes, and it's Joe. And it took me a second to process that. And he was in it, you know. He was there and he was just listening. He had his eyes closed, and at one point he laid down and put another flashlight. And anytime anybody put a flashlight down, either my son or Joe, because like I said, sometimes at my feet the equipment would change. It was always the EMF meter, but sometimes it was one or two flashlights would be in different spots around where my feet were, because people would pick them up, put them down, move them around. So, and my eyes are open and closed, so it's like watching through a Venetian blind that keeps opening and shutting, you know. And I looked down and he put this, I thought it was so cool that he put the little pen light by my feet, and right away whoever was in front of me that was working the stuff just added that right into the circle. So now when I asked a question, the dowsing rods would cross for yes, uncross. Then the next thing would go yes, next thing would go yes, next thing would go yes, you know. But I had to, good night, Blue, we love you, baby. And so all of this is going on. We finally get the guy to listen, and I had to keep going through. And as I'm asking questions about family, I'm getting that he was an orphan, that he was really battered around a lot as a kid, really didn't have a lot of love. So I'm like, oh my God, I have no reference for love for this poor guy, because that's what he's feeding me. Who could love me after all I've done? I've been like this good for nothing, you know, thrown around. And I can see him almost like Billy the Kid as a youngster in Young Guns, you know, the hog boy and all this, like working in farms. I'm getting his flashes. He's giving me full-on visuals of short little clips. And I had to find out, he was in farms. I said, did you ever have a dog? You had a friend that was a dog. And that did it. We had a dog that he loved. And he remembered it, and you could feel his energy changing. And then I added in, did you ever fight with somebody that you felt like was a brother or a good friend? Yes, we had another one, another validation, another one. He had one or two. And we just, right when we had him there, or I had him there, I felt like the other guys were working with me. I really did. All at the same time, I'm like, everybody needs to focus there. I call out all of the loved ones, all their spirit guides. I feel like if spirit guides came and worked with mine to get me to do this, they got to be here now, ready to help. I brought everything with me, and I said, come and get them, come and get them. And you could feel the pull. You could feel the energy moving, and it was living it this time. I look up, and Joe's got tears coming down his eyes. This big guy in this Confederate gray, he's got tears. Everybody's focused in at this point, living and the dead, I believe. And then you could just feel that. And right as it was so strong, it almost felt like a wind, but a very slow, warm wind that just kind of pulled, like from behind me and then in front of me in a way, like somebody turned on this fan. It was just sucking all the air. And at the same time, I'm looking at the dowsing rods, and I think that they're reacting to this wind, because I wanted to see if the wind I was feeling was moving them. And I thought they were reacting to it, but they just started crossing and kept crossing and kept crossing, and they kept coming. Now I've got my elbows in so tight I could barely move, because I wanted to make sure I wasn't moving them. And they're just coming at me, and they're crossing, and they're turning, and they're doing like a complete 180. And as they get against my arms, they squeeze. And I'm wearing a heavy leather jacket. And I can feel the rods squeeze me right here and push in. And then they just let go. And at the same time, they just let go, and they just flowed out and bounced. And the wind went with it. And I promise you, I could hear these clicks. Click, click, click. And as the wind moved off, and the whole atmosphere changed, and everybody just kind of opened their eyes and looked up at the same time and looked around, dumbfounded at each other. And that was it. All the equipment stopped lighting up, everything else, they were gone.
Yeah. Man.
Halloween night, 150th.
Yeah.
And here we are in 159th, you know, and we're celebrating, you know, independence. Our independence from Britain, so to speak. Actually, it was supposed to be Britain, you know, independence from tyranny, and for the people to have a voice. So, for people to not have a voice, you basically have to stop talking. So, don't stop Don't stop saying what you believe. Don't stop fighting for what you believe, and even if it's an internal fight, to keep going to the next day and keep being a light and keep being you and keep doing things that make you and the people you love happy and that keep light into the world. Believing in these things, trying to understand them. You might wind up in a field one night in Gettysburg. You might be there to help a little girl cross. You know, it might not be in this lifetime. You might be on the other side. You know, I don't know anything about what level of consciousness people have to get in to be able to be. I don't know. But we're trying to find out. I don't have all the answers. All I know for sure is love is the answer. The light beats the dark. We carry the light, and we can't let it go out. Whether it's for your country, for your freedom, for your family, for your life, for your happiness, for the world. Got to keep the lights on, people. That's all I got, Donny. How about you, baby?
Well, I guess we were supposed to go into the Shantley Hotel.
Yeah, we
but
were. We should do a whole nother episode.
Actually, I would prefer to do it with Laura, because I don't think I would do that situation justice if I just told it by myself. I think Laura and I should be up here to tell it together.
Honestly, please invite your friends back. I feel bad that we didn't jump into it right away. It was kind of a big show. We said, I guess, sometimes we're just talking about things that need to be said and having a chat and enjoying it. But we definitely touched on Gettysburg. We could have added so much more on the personal diaries of, like Tilly Pierce, who was a 15-year-old girl who wrote diaries every day of what she saw on her walks, where she had to go to try to hide from the first day of the battle to the aftermath. And the whole thing about it, if we leave this with anything else, it has to be Lincoln's thought. Think what you want about him. We're definitely in the future, Donny. I don't know if you want to be on that one, but you're more than welcome. The assassination of Lincoln was absolutely a Caesar moment, a JFK moment. People say all the time, oh, there's no conspiracy about the Lincoln. Really, why did those 4 people get hung in the courtyard then? That's a conspiracy, my love. But it goes a little deeper than a lot of us thought. And
is that a future episode, Cisco,
yes,
for us?
Absolutely. Yes.
Oh, damn. We going
Lincoln.
there.
Yeah, we're going there. We're going there. The Surratt's, the whole shebang. Yeah. We got people going off to freaking Egypt to escape this conspiracy, folks. And then having the galls and balls to come back. That's a good one. That should be a bumper sticker. Having the galls and balls to come back after running away and start a tour on how they used to do, like, very vaudevillian back in those, Western Showtime days.
Yeah.
And giving a whole speech, this one-man act on how he was part of the conspiracy to kill Lincoln. And sold tickets. So we'll talk about all of that stuff. But the thing
Can I just give the chat a quick teaser about the Shantley?
Oh, please do. Go ahead. Have at it.
It was my 3rd haunted house. The second was Hoover that I've been to. And Shantley was by far the most fucked up place I'd ever been to. I mean, this was like the evil, twisted version of Hoover House. Like, remember how we were talking about how Hoover House was like this?
It was meant to be, dude. It was
Whoa,
meant to.
this place was bad.
After the fact, before the fact, during. It was meant to be. Now you have this moss. That's why I think this should be its own episode. And invite your friends on.
Yeah, this should be its own episode.
And please invite the investigators that went with you who would like to come on.
Oh, you know what? Maybe.
Please do. Laura, if she wants to, absolutely, always, without invite, always welcome. And lots of love.
Those ladies were actually really cool too. They were really cool.
Yeah, and let's do a whole episode on it, because I really feel like
that deserves its own episode. Yeah,
you guys had a taste, and the comparison.
Oh, man.
You went from the light to the dark.
Dude,
from the minute you walked in the door, you were being told that by the living, were you not? It was all up front. This is
all I gotta say. Like, it was fun and games until I found out. Oh shit, they're demons here. Like, straight on demons.
I mean,
oh damn.
This whole thing was it's the complete, guys. This is the whole yin and yang. This
Holy
is
crap.
such an important episode because it's really a yin and yang of bed and breakfast. You know, so I really do. We got the whole slideshow
Yeah,
ready
we
to
gotta
go.
do it some
We got the
episode for
vids.
that.
If they have more vids that they want to contribute to this, let's do a whole thing on the
I'll
Shantley.
try to get in touch with those ladies. Let's do it.
Absolutely.
They're really cool, and they have a lot of great stories about the history. That place has
Yeah.
some crazy history.
Oh yeah,
So.
and hey, Lindsay's in here. She said she had booked the Shantley when the what was
On
it?
the virus hit.
Which one was it? Another con? Was it the? We can if we say that, we'll for sure get.
And then
red.
it was the measles. Those
you
damn
guys-
measles.
yeah,
Those measles.
We got the oh god.
Yeah, it was like that bad.
And I blinked and missed murder hornets. I don't know how I got here. You know, I missed murder hornets and everything. That's crazy. Isn't it crazy? See, this is the deal. It's always been fucking crazy, people. You know, like Jordan, what's his name? Peterson. There's an initial in there somewhere. Something's bugging me about that. Like that song or something. But anyway, Jordan, like he said, be a monster, but know how to control it. Everybody needs to control their monster, man. You know, and just realize that all we want to do is take care of our little monsters. We want to grow old to be old monsters. We want to be left alone. We want our, you know, our cigars or cigarettes or whatever it is. We work hard. We don't mind paying for it. We don't mind working for it. We just stay out of our fucking way and let us be us, you know, because there's nobody can point fingers and call anybody. We've everybody's history has done stuff. You know, somebody said in the beginning of this, I think it was Chris, who knows quite a bit about indigenous peoples, and said that Lenape were basically were hunter-gatherers.
Mm-hmm.
But let me tell you something, in a very short amount of time, they were also very stealthy warriors and very sought after later on. There's multiple Civil War battles that, you know, they were involved in. They were kind of like guerrilla warfare, kind of, you know, people shifted with the change, like the bears that are hitting the highways and run along the highways trying to get to a denser forest, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're all like that, you know, but we can't shoot the bears. We have to, everybody, there's plenty of room for everybody. Let's chill and let's remember what today is about. It's not just independence, it's celebrating freedom and those that you know, lived to give it to us and died to keep it. So there you go. I love you all. Happy 4th of July. Happy Canadian Day. Healing and energy to everybody. Donny, I think this is exactly how it was supposed to be. We're going to do that whole episode. Invite the people you went with.
Oh, I think
See
that'd be
if
so
Laura wants to
awesome. That was
come.
like, I didn't even think of that idea. That was a
And
good
we'll show
idea.
the stuff.
Yeah.
Guys, we are going to show the gallery of, you know, of the live chat and stuff again tomorrow night, because I want Steve to see it. People that missed it, it's for everybody. I want to give everybody a chance to see all that. I love you guys. Thank you for all the wonderful comments. Thank you for being you. Do something special. Be kind to yourself. Yeah, basically people were farmers until they had to be warriors. Aren't we all? You know?
Vikings
Aren't
were
we
like
all?
that.
Everybody's got a shadow person, you know? Like, it's just that a lot of people, you know, they weigh their battles wisely. They don't just go
That's
have
usually
fun.
how it goes in history.
Because when you go off like that and things escalate, you wind up with something like Gettysburg, and all those boys wanted to do was have it be over and go the hell home.
Yeah.
You know, and it started with a bang, and it really, really did end in a long, long whimper that took many decades to inhale again. So let's learn from that. I love you all. I'm gonna play out that one tonight, just in case anybody missed it and wants to see something else as they lull themselves off to sleep. That piece of Gettysburg instead of our intro, and that's for everybody who passed there. There's so many stories, and we all got stories, and I'm so glad y'all are here, and I love you. Keep the lights burning. Good night, everybody. Good night, Donny. You did a great job. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Can't wait to do it again. See you tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Good
I'll
night,
be there.
everybody.
The three-day Battle of Gettysburg not only marked the turning point in the course of the American Civil War, but also for the future of the United States of America. July 1st, 1863, the first shot rang out in the early morning hours. By its closing on the evening of July 3rd, it would be known to history as the bloodiest battle of the Civil War. There were over 51,000 military casualties as a result of the Battle of Gettysburg. These were Americans on both sides, a true brother against brother scenario. They were mostly farmers by trade on both the Union and Confederate sides. Some officers from both sides went to West Point together, creating lasting memories and bonds they carried with them to the fields of fire, facing each other across the peach orchard, the wheat field, or over the boulders and rock ditches of Devil's Den. They were fathers and sons, husbands and sweethearts. One man, a 69-year-old veteran of the War of 1812, a Mr. John Burns, heard the first shots invading his town. He grabbed his high-top hat and blue swallowtail coat, the musket he used in the War of 1812, and ran across the street to his neighbor and friend, David Broadhead. "Broadhead, get your musket and get your balls. We're gonna fight the Rebs." Broadstreet hollered back, "I have the musket, but I don't have the balls. I'm not a-going." Well, he joined the Union soldiers anyway and proved himself a hero that day. When they were overrun, John threw away his musket and buried his ammo beneath him in the dirt, wounded 4 times. He told the Confederate officer that stood above him that he got caught up, and could they please carry him home. The Confederate officer said, "We can do that." And John lived to meet President Lincoln the day that Lincoln came to give his famous Gettysburg Address. John is buried here under an American flag. Many names and faces made their name in history those famous days, but not as many would have made it into our memory without the photographers, Alexander Gardner and Timothy O'Sullivan. It took a team. Mr. O'Sullivan's photography skills would prove one of the most famous, and here we see some of his work. The photographic method used then, the glass plate wet process, took a lot of work. This is an actual picture of an early photo development booth with O'Sullivan standing proudly beside it. It is for us the living rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which is they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to this great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead, we take increased devotion to that cause from which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Abraham Lincoln, November 19th, 1863. Who were they? They were soldiers. They are fathers and sons, husbands and sweethearts, orphans of war, and those left behind to mourn. They walk the fields of battle, they stand watch at the stone walls, sit upon the boulders of Devil's Den and guard still. Still. Physical signs of the battle can still be found in Gettysburg. But for those of us who feel the horror of a battle on American soil with other Americans, face to face, is lasting enough. As George Santayana said, if we do not learn from history, we are destined to repeat it. The years since the battle, many have come together to share their stories, to pass along the wisdoms only war can teach, in hopes that those they're telling the stories to will never have to learn them firsthand. The ground remembers, the rock remembers, the buildings and roads remember, and the wind carries the memory along with it as it blows down the hollowed ditches that sheltered weary soldiers while waiting for the bullets to fly again. You can sometimes hear the rock walls being built still by hands from over 150 years ago. No, the ghosts that are here do not wish to be forgotten. They were fathers, brothers, sons, husbands, and sweethearts, and I cannot forget them.